Power Project family, your normal shoes are making you weak. This is why I partner with Vivo Barefoot Shoes, because they have a wide toe box, they're flat, and they're flexible. So with every single step you're taking, if you're taking a 10-minute walk outside, or when you're working out in the gym, your feet are able to do what they're supposed to do in this shoe. They have tons of options for hiking, running, training in the gym, chilling and relaxing, casual shoes for if you're out on a date. You need to check them out. And Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, you guys got to head over to vivobarefoot.com/powerproject, and at checkout, enter promo code POWER20 to save 20% off your order. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
You don't recall?
I have the club of understanding of that.
Some hardcore lifting.
Yeah. Some weird chalk or something.
Hardcore shit.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. But yeah, we were in the gym, and next thing you know, I'm like floating up in the air on your feet.
We did that. You were there.
And I was upside down.
Yeah, that's what happened.
What was that?
What we did.
Why'd you do that to me?
What we did was the therapeutic version of Acro Yoga. So it's co-founded from a good friend called Jason Niemer. And essentially it's like you could think of airplane with your, with your parents. I want to say dad, but I don't want to put myself in the like dad position. But yeah, you put your feet up in somebody's hips and then they drape their body over your feet. And then from there, they're in a really advantageous position to decompress the spine and go through all sorts of really therapeutic movements.
And what'd you say it's called?
Acro Yoga.
Acro Yoga. And what else do they do with Acro Yoga?
Well, there's the acrobatic version of it, which gets a little more interesting to look at. And you can be having someone balancing their hands on your hands, their hands on your feet, their feet on your hands. You could go through flips and spins and all sorts of like really ridiculous looking things. So that's another end that I quite enjoy because it's like one of the beautiful things about it is you're connecting with someone else. So you are learning to trust somebody else. There's a lot of physical contact. I think you could say that the people, oh, there we go. We got some acro. Look at that. You could say people of today. Yeah, I'm almost sure I would know who at least the base is called the bottom person. The flyer is called the top person.
What does it take to learn and become
Dude, it's not,
yoga
it's not
instructor?
that complicated. Yeah, it's called a hand-to-hand there. And it's not that so what you're learning to do in acro yoga is you're learning to stack your joints.
Yeah.
So it's not like a deeply muscular thing. You're just learning to stack your bones correctly. And so you could say that even learning to stand is just a process of learning to stack your joints.
I need to learn this for myself and my girl, to be perfectly honest, because
I'll teach you. Yeah, I'll teach you.
That's pretty cool.
That's gonna be, but like, just being real, this is a selfish skill for myself because first off, we're getting some fitness in, but there's all this stuff going on, and it's just so useful for your health and your fitness.
Yeah.
Who is it more difficult on, the top or the bottom person?
There's so much innuendo in conversation like this, but
Yeah.
But so if the top person, which is referred to as the flyer, is not coordinated or knowing what they're doing, it becomes hard for everybody. So if you have a really good base or a really good flyer, you can kind of like make it work. If both people are not really proficient with it, it's terrible. And so as far as who's it harder for, probably the flyer. It just depends. They're really just very different. Okay. It's like apples and oranges.
Also, I have a question for you. Her, right? Like you said, it's not deeply muscular. So because you were doing this on Mark pretty easily. So she could probably do this to him if she was a good base, right?
100%. It's just geometry. As long as your legs are long enough, and that's the beautiful thing. That's like, a girl learning jujitsu and things of the sort. You're learning leverage. So as long as the geometry functions, like acro yoga, a girl basing a big guy, it's not really a big deal because it's just stacking the bones, and your bones are very strong.
How did you feel when he was doing it to you?
It felt amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah, it did. It felt really good.
Yeah.
His feet were like into my hips, and I was like draped, I guess, over him kind of.
Yeah, it's a little weird to talk about.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I wish we had some video to see this right
Well,
now.
we do. There's a YouTube video.
Yeah,
it's not out yet.
Oh, not out yet. Yeah, tune in.
But it kind of felt a little similar to like when you lay on the reverse hyper. You know, you got that
100%.
weight kind of pinched into your hips there.
Yeah.
And I was just suspended by that part, and that felt good. Let my legs kind of drape down and kind of decompress the spine. It felt great.
Yeah. And so what you're doing with it that's supportive and effective is you're just utilizing gravity to decongest joints that may have been contracted or braced for a very long time. And all you really know is your standing orientation.
Right.
You know, so you've repeated that standing orientation and walking and all of the patterns that you do for thousands and thousands of hours. So your nervous system's kind of like hardwired into those positions. So to flip somebody upside down in that situation, and they're in a completely new orientation, so suddenly like they don't know how to control their body in that position. And now you're saying, okay, cool, breathe into the side of the ribs, breathe into this part of your spine, into this part of your neck, and allows that nervous system to almost like work with like new terrain in a way, you know, and start to breathe into places they didn't even realize that they had access to. It's very cool. Gravity is like, it's in the world of Rolfing, structural integration, which is something that I went to school for. I'm technically a Rolfer, which is another like awkward term that we can get into. That's the main ethos of it, is using gravity actually as your therapist in a way.
Do you go around stealing people's girlfriends with these maneuvers here? Because I can picture like at a party, you know, like my wife or somebody else's girl being like, I want to do that. I'd be like, wait, well, I'd be like, what?
No, you don't.
I'd be like, okay. And then you start watching it and you're like, yeah,
She's enjoying it too much.
She wants to start acro yoga, and then he's like, "Who's your instructor?" Him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you gotta avoid eye contact.
Yeah.
I think that's with everyone involved, boyfriend, girlfriend, you know, and just a lot of looking away, looking to the side. Yeah,
That's kind of like jujitsu.
A little bit. Yeah.
Where'd you learn to be upside down, like, and walk around on your hands and shit like that? Did you do any gymnastics, or was that just stuff that you've explored yourself?
All that stuff I learned as an adult. Yeah, just trying to put it together. I find it very interesting to dabble with new things that I don't understand. If I don't understand something, I'd like to at least have a baseline knowledge of it. And so with getting into handstands and hand balancing and all of that stuff, I just thought it looked cool. You know, I think it's a cool thing. Like we have the opportunity to just be like, like that looks cool. I'll lean into that, compared to being in a position of maybe being more like, you know, I only want to do things that I look good at, that I'm like proficient with. And there's a lot of things that I look out there, and I think a lot of it's like culturally, we're kind of we're orientated towards being observers because you grow up watching TV. If you didn't have like you're a trained observer as a TV watcher. If you've logged your 40,000 hours of watching TV growing up, that's like, damn, like you are a professional observer of people doing stuff.
Play video games too.
Yeah. But the TV is never like, okay, come on inside. Like, let's do the thing. You're like, no, I'm just gonna sit in here. I'm just, oh, well, it's cool. Interesting. Yeah.
And
And
so
so
the adventures of other people.
Yeah. So I think starting to try on, you know, that you know, approach to, I guess, life in general. If something makes you feel good, something's like, wow, like I would love to try that. You know, just electing to do that more. And that was literally just for me with Acro Yoga. Saw a bunch of people doing it just like this. It's like, that looks amazing. And then just walk up to the people and ask. People are so friendly. You know, that's something that I've learned, and at this point it might be rambling on, but I think it's interesting, like when you travel and someone, you know, I spent like 4 months motorcycling around Mexico at one point on an enduro bike. So I had a little like camping hammock thing. I was sleeping in random different places. It was like a whole thing. I was like 21 years old.
We're getting into another like Chad conversation, aren't we?
Yeah.
Like people are just nice to him, right?
Correct. Oh, what is this?
In the bubble.
What is this?
Yeah, bubble, yeah.
What happened?
Show him the video of the bubble.
It's a little bit too. It's too long to explain, but it's what's the show called? It's John Hamm.
John Hamm. Just type in John Hamm bubble.
He's a super good looking guy, and he's walking with like I think his girlfriend at the time or whatever. And he's just walking, and somebody's like, "Dang, you look great today." He's like, "Oh, thanks." And then they're like, "Do you know who that was?" No. Like, okay. They go to a restaurant where like they only serve, we'll say, vegan salads or some shit. And he's like, can I get a steak and blah, blah, blah? And they're like, sure thing. And they're like, they don't have that on the menu. He's like, what? I come in like once a week and order that all the time. They never tell me anything. It's because he's so good looking. Everyone will just be like,
this is a little awkward now.
Okay, sure. Yeah, whatever you want, sir.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Aaron, you want to go ahead and do? Okay, yeah, whatever you want to do.
You're right. You're right.
I wish you could see the clip because the clip is hilarious.
I think there's like a psychological term for that. It's like the halo effect or something. If you're like a hot chick or a good looking dude, there's like this halo effect where people are like, oh yeah, like what? They're like, how can I help? You're like, what? Life is amazing. What are you talking, you losers? What are you talking about?
Or like
everyone's so nice.
When you're in Nsima in the airport trying to buy a neck pillow and somebody just gives you one just because that happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't happen to everybody. Like,
I was nice to her, and she was.
I'm nice to a lot of people.
She looked at me like I was her son. That was the interaction.
That's cool.
That's dirty.
But
good.
you know,
That's good.
Anyway,
Back on topic.
did you used to believe that before? Did you used to think that like if you just went up to people and talked with them and communicated with people or asked questions that you would get answers? Or when you were younger, did you kind of think like, I'm not going to bother that guy. He's going to tell me to go screw myself or something probably.
I don't know. What's your guys' relationship? Like if going up to somebody just asking questions?
I was always really shy when I was young, and I just thought like, it'd be best off not like, don't bother people, like don't.
Right.
But yeah, as I got older and just being in like a gym was really helpful because people would come over and give suggestions here and there. And then I've heard a couple guys say, hey, like if you ever have any questions, like ask some of the other guys in here that are bigger and stronger than you. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool.
There's the longest longitudinal study that's ever been done started, I think it was in 1936. It was done in Harvard, and I think it's called the happiness study. And they what the researchers did is they tracked these people. I don't remember how many people exactly, but it was a large group of people throughout the duration of their whole entire lives, and to be able to track and study and observe what factors in their lives induced health, led to like all-cause mortality, like longevity, all of the different things. And I'm sure you guys have heard of this before. But what they found was that the most important marker of people's health was the quality of their relationships. And that's something that I feel with reaching out and asking somebody a thing. It's actually, they might just say like, fuck off, like, I'm not interested in sharing with you, which is fine. Or it might open up into one of the most important relationships of your life, or just like a nice relationship or a new friend or just having a connection or a bond with somebody, which I think is very healing and it's like, health inducing for the body. So that was, I think within that, a person that is more in a disposition to be like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't, this and that. It as well can kind of keep a person inside their box. Mm-hmm. If you look around, like people are quite lonely, at least that's what statistics suggest. And so I think that perhaps the starting to have kind of the operating system of like, if something's doing something cool, I tell them. Yeah. If I like your shirt, like that's a nice shirt. Where did you get that shirt? And it's just a bridge into connection, which it's not really about the shirt. It's actually, we're bridging this connection.
It's about his pants.
It's about
trying to get his pants.
I like your bulge. Yeah. How did you get that bulge?
Next thing you know, you're hanging off his feet, hanging upside down.
That's how things happen.
Have you guys tried Melanotan?
I have, yeah.
Nice, bro.
Did you use that for your show?
Fuck yeah.
Wait, do you use Melanotan?
I'm about to.
Okay. Wait, why? What's going on here with Melanotan?
Well, you get tan. That's
do you
cool.
need more of a tan, dog?
I just like it. Yeah,
look pretty tan.
I don't need more libido either, but I'd like it.
Like tan and libido. You got to be careful with the amount that you take, though. It can make you like shivery and make your skin feel kind of weird.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm so curious about, you're 35, right?
That's correct.
Man, we don't even talk about it, but I am very curious about like your 20s. Because when did you learn Acro Yoga?
Oh boy. Probably like 21.
That's a dangerous art to learn as a 21-year-old. But I think actually,
it could be. You have to use your powers for good.
That's what I'm saying. I wish I learned it at 21 because actually it'd just be a very good skill to have. But as a guy in general, it's a great thing to be able to do with people, but then it can also lead to connection.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's a healthy practice, right?
Well, it's just like if you know how to dance and like you can just like grab any chick and like fucking, twirl her around and shit.
I'm so jealous of those guys.
Right. So like it's kind of like the same thing. Like you can make that connection in that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dance has been. You guys can like talk about comedic, relatable things, and I'll just come back to some dry study. That'll be the cadence that we're on here.
Great podcast.
Let's go.
I love it.
There was another study done in the Albert Einstein School of Medicine, and it was around what types of activities are best for preventing cognitive decline. And so they did like crossword puzzles and, taking a walk and like all the different things that you might do.
Was creating music in there at all?
Probably.
Okay.
But what they found was music in relation to dance, in relation to another person, was the best superfood / super, activity to prevent cognitive decline. So dementia and just memory loss, all the different things. And the suggestion with that is, I think it's pretty obvious in a lot of ways, but you're just doing so much. So, so you're coordinating your body to music. You're also going through that kind of like that tension of like with another person. Am I going to, are they going to judge me? Am I going to mess it up? So it's just this really, it's like the ante is quite high on that experience as compared to, I just did a bicep curl.
Yeah.
Super great. Love a bicep curl. But the level of just like energy that it takes to coordinate with another person, and then there's also like fun and joy and laughter and all of these different emotions. It was the highest leverage tool to prevent cognitive decline.
Hate to be that bro, but I'm about to be that bro. I wonder how I think your brain went to, I wonder if jiu-jitsu would be somewhere up there.
For sure.
I was researching, but absolutely it would.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're coordinating with somebody else. That's like, so another thing, at some point you guys will say something funny and like you'll like take it away. So please.
All right.
But another thing is the reduction in rough and tumble play. One of the worst things that you could do for a child. So there's like an example of this is dogs, when they are learning to teeth, they're like gnawing on stuff. A part of that as well is they're teaching their jaw how to function and understanding like how to be a sensitive biter.
Yeah.
So if you stop a dog from understanding how to go through their thousands and thousands of repetitions of biting, it actually becomes a more dangerous dog. Because now there's not these gradients of a spectrum of bite. There's like pent up energy and the bite.
Yeah.
For a human, when you're going through jujitsu and boxing and wrestling and playing tag and like all of that stuff, you're learning how to be a more sensitive human being.
Let me ask you this, because tell us a little bit about your history with physical fitness, like bodybuilding. When did you start that? Because you're now doing a lot of things. We can talk about jiu-jitsu and that stuff because you do that. You do acro yoga.
We need to point out you're 6'4" and like 230, right?
I'm actually, I don't think you're supposed to, I think it's embarrassing to say, but I'm technically directly between 6'4" and 6'5". I'm 6'4.5". I'm 220 pounds. Not that it matters.
Why are you hiding? you're, right now, he's hiding his gains from y'all. At some point in the podcast, he's going to pull that out and you're going to be very surprised about the delts you see.
I'm getting warm.
But yeah, dog, like
I'm actually slowly contracting right now to develop a pump. Yeah. What if... Yeah,
he took some niacin. He's ready to go.
Yeah, the Arnold quote. I feel like I'm calming. That's what's coming to mind right now. You guys watch Pumping Iron more than 10 times?
I never saw the whole thing, sadly, so I'm not a true meathead. I never saw the whole thing. I've seen.
Do you
bits and
understand
pieces
my
of Pumping
coming
Iron.
reference?
I get the coming reference.
Good.
I've seen bits and pieces of Pumping Iron, but I never watched the whole thing. I know you've probably
Pumping
seen the whole
Iron
thing.
is fun. Yeah.
So many times. I idolized those guys growing up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was like a big transition point for me. That was like what I thought it was to like, I don't know about like be a man, but I was all in on that. That was bodybuilding kind of fell out of style in the last recent, in a way, I think. And now I think it's actually kind of making a re-emergence, I believe, as well.
What makes you say that? I'm curious.
Just the bubbles that I'm in. I feel like there was kind of a lot of shit talk on bodybuilding for a while, whereas in like the Arnold time, it was incredible. I think really beautiful, and really aspirational. And then when it transitioned, I think into like nothing against Ronnie Coleman, but like that era of bodybuilding where it became just big, get as big as you can, as opposed to symmetry, balance, like actually looking like an athletic, graceful body. It's just like if you're huger than anyone, then this is good. You know, same thing happens with plastic surgery. You know, you go to Colombia or someplace and it's like seeing the butt implants and all the different things. It's like, no, it's like there's a range. We went too much isn't always better. Yeah. So I think that happened with bodybuilding, and now probably it's coming back into a place where there's like a movement towards athleticism and all the stuff that, you know, you guys are so good with investigating and doing yourselves, like, you know, the contralateral movement and multiplanar movement and rotational patterns and all that stuff. And you can also integrate gains and hypertrophy-based training into those movements. Yeah. Which is, I think, more aesthetically pleasing as well.
What didn't work for you bodybuilding-wise?
All focus on the beach muscles. Yeah, because I was like young and, you know, dumb and just like muscle and fitness and very mirror-centric. You know, so if I didn't see it, then it wasn't there. And that was also during an era like before cell phone cameras being as common, you know, so I didn't have like a cell phone camera at that time. So it was pretty much just like me looking at myself in the mirror, you know, and so I was just all about the pecs and abs, and my pecs I had like body dysmorphia, I would say. So if there was ever a photo being taken, I would literally like stop everything, run out of the room, go do a bunch of pull-ups, kind of like I did before this podcast, to be honest. I was talking to Mark. I was like, hold on. I gotta get a pup.
Hey, we've had guys on this podcast before that have stood here and flexed the whole time. Flex the pecs, flex the triceps. Yeah, remember that.
Oh, I wish you could say his name, but it wouldn't be appropriate. I wish you could say who you're talking about, but it wouldn't be appropriate.
It was more than one. We've had more than one guest who's done.
Am I doing it right now?
You're not.
I go down to that book,
Bro.
my flannel.
Oh yeah, that's tough.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. It's tough life.
Anyway. Are we going to do this show or not?
We are doing this show.
Hit record.
No, I think we
okay.
start. I think we can start. I think we go. No, we're going to go in.
In 3, 2, 1, hit record.
Serious? Everyone be okay. That's good.
We're going in.
That's two.
That's two.
That's
I don't know
not
what
good.
I'm going to do with my hands.
That's not good.
If you guys are listening right now, I'm sorry. There's just a lot going on the video
we
side
got
of
a lot
things.
of action. Stop. These mind bullets are good. Yeah.
You mentioned that. What a great advertisement for it. It's great for focus. Maybe not.
Sure.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. You mentioned that you were playing hockey and that you were bodybuilding, and then bodybuilding made you like, I don't know, it maybe didn't make you, but the way that you were bodybuilding, you got kind of big and stiff, and it didn't work out great with
just
hockey.
Disconnected. Yeah. So there's only so much. Like the body is comprised of 640 odd muscles, give or take. You know, so for you to isolate that down, but ultimately the body doesn't realize that. So a muscle is just like an individuated band of fibers. It's been cut out from an anatomist, you know, with a scalpel, and they say, aha, muscle, bicep brachialis,
and
or
it might
triceps, or quad, or whatever.
It might have some sort of intelligence, but not a lot.
The body doesn't know what the hell you're talking about. You know, and so when you're isolating and you look at a machine and you say, aha, this is vastus medialis, or this is semimembranosus, or like whatever the heck is on there.
Yeah.
The body's like, bro, I just know movement. And so when I was trying to fit myself into these very specific training of very specific muscles without awareness of how to put it all together, it became clunky and less graceful and less athletic. And I went from being like pretty good at hockey to literally progressively, as I got more jacked and more interesting to look at, I just each year I got
on the ice.
I got shittier at ice hockey, and so that was an interesting like revelation of sorts for me. It took me probably like another decade to kind of start to be able to pick it and understand. I just thought I was starting to suck and everybody was getting better than me, but it was that my training was garbage.
We got to pause for a second. We got to talk about hockey.
Oh, please!
Because I think it's the greatest. It's the greatest sport. Like,
I still watch highlights all the time. There's no reason for me to watch highlights on YouTube.
Do they?
If you look at my YouTube freaking Discover page, it's just like ice hockey highlights. I'm like, what am I doing?
Does this still happen? Are there still goons in hockey?
No, that stopped.
Okay, explain goons.
It was just a fighter that was on the team.
Yeah, like Donald Brashear on the Flyers or people of the sort.
Wait, they're meant to just
Bob Probert.
fight?
Yeah, or their goal. They're not good at hockey. They're good enough to play in the NHL, but literally their function is to be an enforcer. So their function,
And they're huge.
Yeah, they're
A lot of them are really big.
Yeah, a lot of them end up killing themselves and like drug overdoses and depression.
Well, because concussions.
Concussions. Yeah, they beat the shit out of their brain over and over again. It's so much tension and so much pressure. Imagine that hockey players play a lot of hockey. Like I think the average amount of games that a player is playing in the NHL is like they're doing like 2 or 3 games a week.
Look up Bob Probert and Ty Domi.
I love Ty Domi. He's a little guy.
Supposedly these guys fought like 15 times on the ice, and the story is that they like fought off the ice too. Like these guys just would always, and they were like, I think they were cool with each other. They just like, they just loved to fight, and they would fight each other.
What was the name again? Sorry.
Ty Domi and Bob Probert.
Yeah.
But I think Bob Probert, he did commit suicide.
Yeah,
he died somehow prematurely.
Yeah, drug overdose is a big thing with it. You know, but just imagine the pressure of that. Of you're going in, and hockey fights aren't easy. You're punching helmets. You know,
they always pull the shirt over your head.
Yeah,
and then they punch the fuck out of you.
Yeah, they punch the fuck out of you.
Look at these guys every time. Look how big the guy in the red is. That's Bob Probert.
That's Probes. The
and the other guy's kind of little.
Oh my Christ!
Yeah, and so you're
and the ref is just standing there.
They let them go.
Yeah, they let him go.
Well, the ref can't really safely do much. You know, the ref gets in there and the ref gets killed, and I think that's originally why they kind of allowed it just to happen, because the ref's going to fall because everyone's on ice.
I have a question, guys, real quick. So where did hockey start? What's the base country where hockey? Canada, for sure. Okay, so they're like the nicest people, but within their country sport, there's something left there for people to just fight. Why?
Yeah, maybe it's like the best jiu-jitsu guys don't have really much to say, right?
So here's
they take it out here.
Here's kind of why it happens. It happens because other players will take shots at the best guys on the ice, the most talented guys. Sometimes they just try to take them out. Little hip check or some cheap shit. And as soon as the cheap shit goes on, then the enforcer comes out. Yeah. So like that guy didn't even want to fight right there, but he's like, F it, I might as well go for it.
The guy that there's a documentary, I forget his name, but if you look up, you don't need to, but his name's the Boogeyman was his nickname. He was like one of the most famous enforcers. I'd be actually look him up just because I'm curious what his name is. But yeah, it was a similar situation where he ended up like ODing and a lot of depression and all the things. It's just that repetitive. And you look at a hockey fight, it's not MMA where it's cool. I'm kicking you in the shin. I'm going to do a single leg. I'm going to try an arm bar.
It's 2 guys that are trained in that. These are guys that are just throwing haymakers. It's just
cool. I'm going to grab you by the jersey and just concuss the side of your face on repeat over. It's like a shake weight, but for concussions, just over and over again against the side of your face. That times 3 games a week, times broken hands, hitting helmets, all of that stuff, times the pressure of that, times you start to fall off and feel like, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. Oh, you have to do this. Yeah. You're being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to do this. Go out there and effing do it.
God.
Like
hockey is really interesting. These guys are super athletic. It's not uncommon for them to be your size, right? A lot of guys are pretty darn big, especially the NHL guys.
Now it's getting smaller, faster, and younger. So there's not so much like that enforcer culture.
Why do you think it's making that anymore? Change?
I think probably just like the Sidney Crosbys of the world are just like they're putting points on the board. I think it's just like cool, like more of that. And then you also something interesting with it that I would have never anticipated us talking about the endless hours of ice hockey highlights that I watch as a 35-year-old. But another part of it as well is now because of YouTube and social media, you see these hockey tricks you know, and there's a lot of like pretty influential hockey trick influencers. I don't know any of their names, but they're just doing these crazy tricks
with a puck and a
So it's the same thing. It's like this cross dissemination
like people
of
dunking a
information.
basketball or something. Some more other form of entertainment within the sport.
Like a hockey and one mixtape.
Yeah, there's like a hockey and a mixtape type thing going. So you have these young kids learning these and that's what looks interesting as well. You know, so you have these young kids just getting better and better and better and better. You know, and while I was like a peewee or squirt hockey player, I didn't have internet. So there was all the inspiration was whoever was like good in my ice rink. Whereas now your inspiration is all of the crazy dope shit that's happening across the planet. It's very interesting how the internet changes things.
Pretty cool.
So you probably can bodybuild though and play a sport. And
Totally.
do great. But for you, that wasn't your experience. Why do you think, what was missing in your training or what happened that led you to be like stiff and uncoordinated?
Just bad training. Yeah. Like Gordon Ryan is an example of that, the jiu-jitsu competitor.
He fights tonight, I think, right?
Yeah.
Is it tonight?
Yeah, against Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Which, we'll see how that goes. But
Who do you think is going to win?
Gordon for sure.
For sure?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I put some trust in Nicky Rod as a dark horse.
I love Nicky Rod.
Yeah.
I know Nicky Rod. We've done YouTube videos together. We I like them both. But yeah, I mean, if you saw ADCCs,
Gordon's technique is immaculate.
It's kind of sad almost. Like the level, the degree that he is above the competition, it's almost like there's two leagues in a way. So there's Gordon, and then there's the other competition.
Yeah.
But it's so disparate, like it's so disconnected and so far. It almost makes it like it's beautiful to watch, but it's almost like not that interesting.
Yeah.
In a way. I mean, it's amazingly interesting because like, wow, how do you do that? But he has like some prodigical stuff going on. I think the biggest thing that he has is having a coach, having Danaher. That's what a lot of the other competitors, I think, don't have to the degree that he has.
Yes.
And a lot of the other highest level competitors, they are the coach, which that's like a very different thing. So to have like the Customano type scenario in your life where it's like, cool, you're like the old sensei guy, like I'm the young whippersnapper, I'm the best, I could be the coach, coach's coach, but you are my coach. I think it's a very, very important factor for him.
They also lived together for a while, so he he lived it for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the level, just like the level that they work for it. I mean, I don't really know. I've trained it I haven't trained. I've been through New Wave where they train, a handful of times, and I've worked with some of the athletes there as well. And they train all the time. It's like at least 2 days a week.
Gentlemen, my car lights
times
are on, so I'll be right back.
2 times a day.
Yeah.
Gordon Ryan, he specifically does like bodybuilding style training.
He does. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Does he do like? Are you aware like if he does anything else, or is he like in there literally like kind of bench squat, deadlift variations, and he's just like trying to build hypertrophy when he's in the gym?
Yeah. So his girlfriend has a background with bodybuilding. She was a competitive bodybuilder. And so most of the training I've never trained with him, but most of the training that he does, I believe, is mostly influenced from her or largely influenced from her. And it's mostly bodybuilding based stuff. So he uses bodybuilding because he's training jiu-jitsu so much.
Yeah.
So he's patterning movement and then adding robusticity and density to connective tissue via, adding load.
Yeah.
Outside of that. But the foundation definitely isn't bodybuilding. He's not bodybuilding himself into being Gordon Ryan. He's jiu-jitsuing himself to being Gordon Ryan, and then he adds that as an add-on.
I see. He doesn't have an overemphasis on bodybuilding so much that it's messing him up for his sport. It's improving him for his sport.
It's improving, yeah.
Now, that makes me wonder, when you were using bodybuilding and ice hockey, did you just take it too far with what you were doing with bodybuilding with your training?
I was just so imbalanced. I was so into, I had some hang up about needing to have bigger pecs. It's like embarrassing to talk about. I mean, it's not that embarrassing, but it's just like,
we all have that.
I still want bigger pecs.
Yeah, it feels a little soft. But so like I was like so
your
like
pecs feel a little soft. I mean, you need to be
exactly,
harder, right?
Like flaccid pecs. There you go, get in there, pec minor. Huh? Not bad. Little bi.
Yeah,
that felt nice. I like the
Nice.
contact. That was good. Have you guys ever had prostate massage?
I have
yet.
not.
Not yet.
On the bathroom floor?
Yeah.
One of the saddest moments of my life was laying curled up around beside my toilet in bathroom in Boulder, Colorado. And doing...
Andrew leaves for 2 seconds.
We're talking about prostate massages.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No, this isn't prostate massage.
Oh, okay.
No, it's different.
Oh.
Different.
Oh.
Can we go back to
Yeah. Yeah, there's we go layers through the rectum here. But so this was curled up beside my toilet, running a coffee enema into my butthole. You guys ever get down on that?
I've never tried it before.
I think I've heard of it. Maybe.
Give us a
Is this
2-minute.
some Ben Greenfield? Is this a Ben Greenfield
Give
thing?
us a 2-minute speech on why we need to do coffee enemas. Ready? Go.
I don't think you do. I guess would be my starting point.
I was hoping that it'd be like some sort of intrigue here. Like you're gonna be shocked at what it's gonna do for you.
So I think with the coffee, I'm talking out my ass here. That was not an intentional pun. I think what it does is it's like catalyzes contraction. I think it's like helps induce peristalsis, which is like the contraction of the parts. I think that's what it's for. But it also gives you like a buzz.
Is that
I
what
shit
what
a
did you
lot
do
as
it?
it is, so I don't know.
What was your intention here, though? Like, what were you doing it for?
I just read about stuff.
And then
Coffee enema. Wow. This sounds great.
I like trying stuff, man.
that's good. Now, can you just tell us the process of what you did here? Like, how did this work? What did you set up?
You use gravity like Acro Yoga.
Yes.
You get yourself a nice bag, a little tube.
Yeah.
Put it up. The situation
Are you ass
you
up
mix it up?
You're ass
No,
up?
I was laying down, bag up, and this was just one of those moments where I had kind of like a third person look down, just observing
just
myself.
dissociated for a second to
This
take
is, this is like my 23-year-old self living in Boulder, Colorado, holding a bag above my ass.
You're like, I'm repulsive.
Yeah. I was like, what have I become?
Look at where I'm at. Dad, please don't find out about this, Dad.
Did you have a moment of like, well, this is what I do now? Like,
This is who I am.
The line has been crossed.
This is who I am. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was
How'd I get here?
That was one of those moments.
Even better, you put yourself there.
Thank you for listening, guys. I feel seen and heard.
Oh, that's great.
Now, okay, so we were deep with the coffee enema.
Yeah.
Prostate massage.
Very important.
Okay.
Yeah. I believe gay bottoms have significantly less incidence of prostate cancer, which is like, I think it's considered just like, oh yeah, at some point, if you get old enough, you're going to get a little cancer back there.
You got to get semen down there or what? Because I could do that with a turkey baster.
I'm sorry, dog.
This is powerful information. What are you doing?
It's not even that funny. Fuck. It actually fuck.
He just gets excited.
This is powerful information.
It is. Okay. So they have
Yeah,
less
you want things to be perturbated. You want things to be circulated, and you get a lot of tension in and around that territory. Get a little tool, you get up there, and you get a little movement.
You have a point. Like,
There's like a little massager thing you can get, right?
Yeah. I recommend it, honestly.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I don't know if this is
What do you
a
think it
wise
will?
place to
What do you
go.
think it will help?
I don't know. I mean, I think honestly, no. I think
What does it help you? Maybe
this is just opinion. This isn't something that I regularly do. It's something that I have explored. I think it's a valuable. I think it's a valuable thing to explore. I think it's a valuable thing to explore. But people hold a lot of tension in their ass, man.
That's true. No,
bro.
No, that is
like
true.
right now. I noticed my anal sphincters clenched a little bit. I just
Loosened up after you
released
said
my
that.
shit.
I loosened up after you said that.
Right?
Too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
walking around all day with a tight ass, that's a problem.
Think about that actually will probably link to your lower back too. Like if you're
For
fucking
sure.
and then your lower back
pelvic
is
floor
tight too.
function, all the
Yeah.
different things.
On a serious note, you're totally right about that.
And your prostate, if there's, and this gets into things that I don't really, have a strong opinion on, but I think that there can be, if there's like shame or trauma, say there was actually like legit proper trauma in that territory.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of shelf it, you stuff it down and you move on with your life. I think it's wise to not have insecurity or fear of like any part of the body. It's interesting that we have most people, maybe it's just me, but a lot of shame around some parts of their body. which is odd when you think about it. Like
that's what I'm saying. A dick, a forearm. What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Yeah,
What's the difference?
It's all the same. Just let it all flop around.
What do you mean? It's just
go.
well. It's just the fact that there is some level of shame there, which I think it's like an interesting thing with holding contraction in the body someplace. I think we mentioned the YouTube video. I don't think we mentioned it on here. The Moshe Feldenkrais method guy, he called that held tension that you don't realize it's there. He called it parasitic tension. So that parasitic tension acts as like an energetic parasite. I mean, energy in a very like literal calorie type way, where you're expending caloric energy to maintain these deep intrinsic bracing patterns or like contractions.
Yeah, beliefs, feelings, traumas, whatever they might be.
Beliefs, feelings, traumas manifest themselves into physical structural patterns. That's not woo-woo. That's not like just be scared for a second. Yeah. What does the physical body look like when it's scared? You know, you might feel contraction in your mandible, you might feel scalenes, SCM, all that stuff. You might feel your breath start to move up into the shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you might clench your freaking sphincters, clench your hands. Like that is fear. You know,
think about when you first started running. Think about like the places
my butthole.
Well, I mean, there could be that, but also just like when I first started running too, or like reintroduced running as part of what I do, massive tension in the traps and back, and I had to continue to tell myself, fucking drop, relax. Yeah. You know what I mean? Open, like that makes so much sense.
I've had Dr. Romanoff from the Pose Method on my podcast a while ago. Have you ever done stuff with him?
We never have.
He's heard of him.
Oh, he'd be a good one. Yeah. He's fun. He's wild.
Oh, cool.
He's like a wild, ridiculous person. And he took me through, we did a YouTube video and all the different things. And he took me through a bunch of different exercises. One of the biggest things is out of my realm of expertise. I'm not like I wouldn't coach anyone in running or anything. I'm more just helping create the mobility to be able to go through the ranges of motion, but not an expert in running. But he is. And a lot of it was like, most of it was releasing tension. You know, and that's I've seen some drills from other coaches that are quite good with running, and one of the drills that I observed was just spending a bunch of time just shaking out the shoulders, shaking out the hips, and just moving, and just where can you find? Is there any tension in the body? Okay, cool. I feel it in my ankle, I feel it in my hip, and just like wringing it out. Where's the tension? Okay, less tension. Okay, less tension. Okay, I'm like completely relaxed in my body, and slowly allow that to morph into what looks more like running, as opposed to starting off with this like pre-tension in the body and saying, okay, I'm gonna run. Go the other direction. Say, okay, like let's just like rinse out all the tension in the body and build from that point. And then you don't have a bunch of parasitic tension while you're out there running, which is going to create friction. You know, it's going to create inflammation. It's going to create less. It's just going to be less productive movement.
It seems like this has been an amazing journey for you. It seems like you are like in search of something, and it seems like you're starting to find some of it. What do you feel like you're in search of? Do you have any idea?
What makes you say that?
I don't know. I've just known you for a long time.
Yeah,
I've known you for a handful of years, and when I first met you 5 or 6 years ago, I don't think you had a name in the fitness industry, really, right?
No.
Yeah, people didn't know who you were.
I mean, I started the podcast 7.5 years ago,
and I've heard your name kicked around by other kind of high-level performer type of people.
Cool. Mostly around prostate stuff, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Mainly surrounding the controversy.
Prostate, Aaron Alexander.
The controversy over the prostate incident of
almost
2021.
Like a single word. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. You feel like you're in search of something, or are you...
That's an interesting
just
insight.
Trying to be more open-minded, or were you open-minded previously, and this is kind of always been your path of curiosity?
Are you in search of something? I promise I'm not. Well, I guess I am deflecting a little bit. Isn't everybody in search of something?
Yeah, but it seems like you're like poking around for answers, like looking for stuff to be better kind of consistently. And yes, right. I am always doing that, but this show is about you, my brother.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that's a really interesting question. I mean, if I was going to be really real, what am I searching for? Like, I enjoy doing things that seem like they have the likelihood of making me feel more like myself, whatever that is exactly. And I think that we grow up in a way where there can be a lot of different layers of shame, guilt, fear, which can manifest themselves as a lot of avoidant patterns that turn into addiction to cell phone, addiction to love, addiction to drugs, addiction to money, power. And most of those are like shields to protect us from something that's at a deep core root level. There's like a holding. And so I think I personally feel some level of, I think there's more, like I think there's more to life than just like getting more stuff. And I, on occasion, pretty regularly will feel like a certain level of like yearning. In Buddhism, they call it like the hungry ghost is the metaphor with that is a sensation of like a mythological creature that has this huge belly and really small gullet, and they can never feed the belly. And so they just keep eating and more and more. And then you finally like, okay, I eat all the food, and then you're like, more. And so I think I've had that for, since I was like a little kid in a way. And I've filled that like vacuous void with lots of different things, and it's turned into becoming more, reading more books, trying to learn all the different things. I want to know everything. If somebody's doing something, like I'd really like to know it. Be more jacked, so I feel like more superficially validated. But I think there's a deep, I don't know if you intended for this to like go as deep as I'm kind of going with it, but I feel like there's like there's still like this kind of void sensation that I think I've filled with a lot of different things, but I'd like to get to the root of that. And that's why I do weird shit like darkness retreats and vipassanas and psychedelics and stuff, and reach out to like community and men and people that I respect and mentors and all of that, because I feel like there's like more. I don't think I'm at the bottom of it yet.
Do you ever think that you'll reach the bottom though? Because like that feeling of a void, I don't know. I feel like we all feel that, and we're consistently trying to do new things and find holes. But I don't know if there's a point that you'll ever reach perfection, right? Like,
well, not perfection, ease.
Okay, so you're saying that you don't feel at ease?
Not always. Definitely not. Okay. Definitely, nobody does. Like I get that. But yeah, I would like to be in a place in my mind and my body, where I can be alone for 10 days or 5 days or, whatever, and just be like, man, like this feels good. There's not a sensation of like, I'd feel good if, now another, I'd feel good if, I'll be happy when. So I think like going into those parts of, and I think ultimately it probably for many people, myself included, comes down to like a inability or just not knowing exactly how to perhaps trust love, or be able to like love myself, be able to love other people, be able to allow love in. I think there's like, a lot of heavy shit in there in relation to that for me.
Do you think you still have body dysmorphia?
No, not to the degree that I did as a kid. So as a kid, there was like all sorts of interesting stuff. My dad's completely recovered drug addict. Like he was like very deep into crack, cocaine. He'd come home with like bullet holes in the car on occasion. That just happened one time, but it was like shit like that. So like pretty heavy of just experiencing like your main father, your main male figure in that orientation as a 16-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so I've kind of glossed around a lot of that stuff and kind of said things like, oh, it was really interesting. It was really fascinating. It's like, no, it was like scary and hard, for like a little boy that is trying to find an anchor in the world.
Scary and confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And so I think being open, like a lot of this strong guy stuff is a lot of people that are brilliant compensators, which I would say I'm maybe not a brilliant compensator, but definitely a compensator. And they've arrived to a point where they're bigger than anyone, they're stronger than anyone, they have more money than anyone, they've got a hotter chick than anyone, and there's still a feeling of like, more. At least that's my experience.
We were talking about this yesterday, but I'm curious about that. Like, for all of us, to an extent, I can speak for myself, where
I'm bringing guns out here.
There we go, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump on the YouTube.
Are you guys seeing this right now?
Shit.
We should pose off.
Like the Mike O'Hearn episode.
Look at them shoulders.
Thank you.
This guy's veined out right
Look at
now.
that.
Banged out.
All right.
Kinda like, yeah,
Then
he's
he
trying to hide it.
stands there.
Dude, you see the
stand like that the whole podcast.
He tried to hide it, but then striations came out of his shoulders.
The most dangerous person, I think, is the behind the back, like the Masvidal before he knocked out Askren.
Oh, God.
Shit.
Like you start out a fight and you're kind of behind the back. You're not. So this is an interesting thing. When a person is posturing as though like I'm the biggest, I'm the strongest, I want to show you that.
Yeah.
It's always insecurity. Unless they're like playing 3D chess, where they're kind of like layering on top of insecurity on top of confidence on top of insecurity, or however that order would go. But a person that can come from that place and get the ribs to stack effectively over the pelvis and the pelvis over the knees and over the feet, and just have this kind of like, the cylinder is stacked. They're breathing confidently. That breath is moving horizontally down low into the ribs. It's not up into the upper lobes of the lungs, which are very small. You're not actually getting good airflow in there. And it's just boom.
If someone came
It's very cool.
If someone comes into a fight like that, you'd have to be highly uncomfortable. Because if they're like, I'm going to fight you right
Do you know that vision? Can you pull up the Masvidal?
Yeah, when he's
fight?
like sitting on
right, because it was a
cage.
9-second fight, so you can see in the beginning.
Yeah, was his leg on the
Dude,
cage? He was
that's
like this or whatever?
gnarly. Like that, you see somebody like that, it's like, oh no, what have I done? How do I get out of this situation?
But, okay. Actually, let's just watch it.
Here it is.
Because
Here it is. God. This is history.
This is worth
He's like,
history,
boy, I'm
bro.
gonna smoke you,
That-
motherfucker. Look at
that
him.
position. Yeah.
And
Oh,
career
Jesus.
That's a little sad, but
That's
yeah.
very sad. Was that Ben
But-
Askren's last fight?
It was his last big fight.
Yeah, he came back a little bit. And
yeah.
Okay.
Compared to Conor McGregor, Khabib, and now his like one of his most famous, or it was Khabib, right? Where the most famous situation we came out, he does his like gorilla strut thing, knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was knocked out, but
The scariest
lost.
part was when him and Khabib were on the stage, and Khabib was like, "Say it now, say it now." And you just kept
So
punching
cool.
him or whatever he was saying.
I love Khabib. Like I actually think
talk
I
now,
love Khabib.
talk now.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Yeah. It's like,
shit
oh
like that.
shit.
That quiet confidence and like dependability, I have great admiration for.
Yeah,
It's very cool the way that he does life.
it was pretty awesome. Okay, this is what I was going to ask you about the using or like let's say using strength as a mask for your insecurities or whatever. We talked about it before, where when we feel a level of stress, discomfort, or whatever. Like I remember someone important to me died a few years ago, and my immediate thing was like, I was like, when I heard about it, I was like, fuck. And I was like, I need to go jujitsu. Like that was just where my brain went, because I knew that by physically exerting myself, I'll be able to think about this in a more clear fashion, right?
True.
So it makes you wonder, I look at that as a healthy way, as a healthy thing for myself. Might not be the thing that everyone goes towards, but using that, it seems as if like it's not necessarily we lift to lift our insecurities, but more so it can be a form of exertion so you can think clearer about other things. At least that's how it is for myself.
Yeah. Well, yes. With anything, it's not the kind of car you drive. It's not the amount of muscle tissue you have on your frame. It's not like anything. It's what's at the root of like why you're doing that. So if you're a person that's not like me and has a healthy, historically has a healthy relationship with exercise and putting on muscle and, all of those things, that's amazing. Like I'm so, grateful that exists. And for that, it's the same output of they're both muscular or have a nice car or, nice watch or whatever. But at the root of it, there was one person that was almost like enslaved by that, and like this is common in, as you guys are, learning more about, like ultra runners oftentimes are like ultra running away from something, not always, but there's drug addiction is something that's not like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's there, and that's like, okay, what is that? I'm like, what if I'm just here with myself? It's too much. Okay, I'm just gonna run.
Can't be idle.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going. And now it's great because your muscles are essentially like endocrine organs, you could say. and so you're producing all the different irisin and the BDNF and all the things that, the corresponding neurochemicals and hormones that make you feel better. So it's like a super healthy outlet. But even so, you will temporarily feel better, but are you just quelling a deeper sensation of actual dissatisfaction or fear or shame or like whatever the story is?
Yeah.
Or are you coming from a place of like, no, I just like tapping into my endogenous medicine cabinet and I do it from a healthy place. It's not like if you have a bunch of money and a bunch of muscles, like, you're hurt, but maybe.
Yeah.
It could be a compensation.
Something to think about as an individual. Like, look at why you're doing that, why you're choosing to.
Yeah,
lift or
why?
whatever.
Just why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was this like? Well, I guess before we transition to that, I was going to say something that I observed. It's very difficult to fix the mind with the mind. So we do have the ability to reinterpret stuff, but something else has to happen other than just reinterpretation a lot of times, especially with like a trauma from your childhood, something that really disturbed you, something that really moved you. Even as an adult, you might be more mature and you might have new thoughts on stuff. And you might say, well, it's a choice for me to be sad about that. And that is true. It's a choice for you to be sad, mad. It's a choice. And everyone has that right to feel whatever way they want to feel. Something I've learned over the years is that you can choose how you feel in a way that favors you the best. Again, however, I don't think you can only heal the mind with the mind. So you'll probably have to actually give these things a little bit more thought, and they might need to be worked through in other ways than just your thinking.
Yeah.
Exercising, doing challenging, hard things, just keeping your eyes open. You and I were just talking about like looking up, like looking at the sky and just observing the world around you, trying to find beauty, trying to find happiness and other things. So yeah, a lot of that is going on in the mind, but I think some physicality, some sort of physical something. We talked about just getting in the sunlight, going on a walk. Yeah. A lot of these physical things can really help as well. So we know that psychologically you could be damaged to where it's paralyzing. We know physically you can be paralyzed to where it can negatively impact your mind. And we know with Nsima, who's been very athletic most of his life, when he had an injury in soccer, it was misery for a while, right? Like it was it was really, really tough. So it's easy sometimes for us to look at other people and to judge and to say, I don't understand, like, I got off the couch when I was fat. How come that guy can't get off the couch when he's heavy? And because that guy has a different experience going on. He's got different shit going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to move on from that. I want to know about this darkness retreat. Mm-hmm. What was going on with that?
Yeah. So I wrote a book called The Align Method that came out originally like 3 years ago. And then there was a revised version that came out like a year ago. In that book, one of the chapters is about vision and the way that your vision affects, it's like pulled, it's like a toggle for your physiology. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like we were talking about, like looking up makes you feel a different way than looking down, looking left, looking right, going into panoramic vision. Like Andrew Huberman he's probably like the godfather of this, at least in popularizing a lot of this research. So if we're stressed out, we're going to probably get a little bit more myopic and focused on the task. If we're just chilling, we're going to go into that panoramic vision, relax the eyes. In that chapter and doing research for that, which Andrew Huberman actually helped with that chapter and like revising, which I'm immensely grateful for. One of the things was like, oh, interesting. It's all about like vision and light and circadian rhythms and stuff. What about no light? And so in that we included this thing called darkness retreat. And so in they brought it back, I think pretty much originally in the Czech Republic was kind of like the big bring back of it. It's originally a Buddhist thing. They do it in Colombia. A tribe called the Kogi people do it through childhood for like a while. It's like a big part of their childhood.
What do you mean a while, real quick?
I've heard that it's 8 years, and they come out. They come out. They just don't go out in the sun.
That's some Bane type shit right there.
Yeah,
Whoa.
Yeah. I've heard that. I don't quote me on that. I'm not confirm that. I need to like meet some Kogis and be like, come on, son, like 8 years, like bro. But yeah, they're very much like that tribe. I think a big part of and I don't know a lot about the cookie people, but a big part of their thing is like spiritual transcendence and stuff like that. It's like a part of their culture, and like the dream state. So we put a lot of energy into the waking state.
Yeah.
Waking state is kind of just another dream. It's just a waking dream. And then there's the dream state, which is what we collectively like, aha, cool, that's just a dream. But ultimately, like the world is a bunch of waves and particles and frequencies going into our eyes, and then we're flipping the image upside down, and it's going through this processing chip, and it's just particles and waves. It's not that we tie the meaning onto it based off of the story that we tell ourselves about it. And ultimately, it's the difference between sleeping and waking, like, who knows? Maybe this is kind of an interesting idea. The idea that like perhaps this. Have you guys ever thought about this? Of when you have a dream, it feels like it's forever.
Yes.
And the idea of like maybe what we're doing right now is just a big like you're gonna wake up from this thing at some point.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's like Kogi stuff. They're like, yeah, like let's lean into that part. But so in that chapter, we wrote about that. The suggestion is that by being in a dark room with yourself for a while, essentially deep parts of your mental emotional self will start to surface. You naturally address them because you have no other option but to allow them to come out, and ends up looking like maybe screaming, maybe kicking, punching, maybe meditating, maybe yawning, maybe crying, maybe like the whole plethora of different possible human expressions.
Yeah.
And you just feel shit come up. It's very strange. If you've ever done like have you guys done any like long meditations, like vipassana or anything like that? You're like just sitting with yourself for like an hour or something?
I haven't done an hour. I've like done most 25 minutes.
Okay. I mean, you get it with running, too, but just like being with yourself.
Yeah.
Sitting in an airport, you got nothing to do. You're just like, oh. So that times take away all of the light, all of the possible, avoidance strategies of cool, like my phone and do whatever. And those little anxieties or discomforts or compulsive patterns of like, oh, I want to do that. Take that off the table. The suggestion is that allows these like deep held, neurotic patterns in yourself to start to surface and come out. And their suggestion is that like, heals a lot of strange, random, mysterious things. People come in for all sorts of conditions, and they come out and with resolution very often. I'm not saying that in a scientific way. That's just the anecdotal experience of a lot of people.
What are some interesting anecdotes that you've like seen or heard?
Well, I think the big thing would just be like things like the more apparent ones would be like chronic anxiety, depression, things like that. And there's some other stuff. I don't know any specific anecdotes to be able to share, but those like misalignments of the mind, where you're compulsively are going through these thought loops and feeling loops. If you're with it, if you just sit with it, typically, and this is a very Buddhist perspective as well. In Buddhism, they call this the samskara is a term for, it literally translates to impression. And so at some point in a person's life, we've all had them, you have some quote unquote traumatic experience happen. Trauma would just be, to put definition onto like a very nebulous word that gets thrown around, you could say trauma is just something that, some event that happened that you didn't have the resources to be able to process. So instead of actually like allowing, like be with the thing, make reason of it, move through it, you just kind of like repress it, stuff it down. So that'd be like, oh, that from a Buddhist perspective would be like an imprint in your body. This event that happened was so hard, but you didn't feel maybe like safe enough. It wasn't the right environment. So you're just like, okay, I'm just going to like not deal with this.
Didn't work it out.
Yeah. So, I felt like I needed to cry. I felt like I needed to scream. And you're just like, you'd like put it in. That,
not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the suggestion is, and a lot of this stuff is kind of hard to describe, but I'm like, I think this is about, this is about the best I can do at describing it. But they stay almost like a physiological, mental, emotional imprint, and you carry it. It starts to affect the way that you make decisions, affect the way that you, and just like your behavior, your relationships, why you do the things that you do. Could be how many people have done a thing where they were really shamed when they were 10 years old because they got beat up by the bully. Now suddenly they're like a black belt in jujitsu and they drive like a murdered out car or whatever, and they're just like, never again. And they're still angry. It's like, bro, you were 10. Like, let it go. So the suggestion from that philosophy, and I think there is a lot of legitimacy to this, but it's just hard, how like science is, like science has to catch up in a way. But the suggestion is if you be with those things instead of do the avoidant pattern to kind of like get out of that sensation, then it's essentially like that anxiety or the uncomfortable sensation is literally that imprint of that experience trying to surface in a way and like get out. And if you just sit with it for long enough, the suggestion from those traditions would be that it will actually be able to move through and out of the body, and you can feel more at peace essentially.
What's the darkness retreat like? You go into like a
That's weird.
dark room or something?
Yeah, so
and for how long?
So the one that I did was 5 nights and 4 days. So it was 108 hours, which is kind of like a funny number. And essentially it's like just a bed, a little yoga mat, a little like meditation cushion thing, a bathtub, which is very nice. And then like a very small little like cubicle of a bathroom. And you go in and you have like, you blow out the little candle at night, and then you're like, poof, like we're in. Like, okay, like what have I done? Like this doesn't, I don't think I really am that excited about being here anymore, was my experience. And then you just fucking sit with yourself.
Do they bring you food?
Yeah, once a day. Yeah, every day around like 5 o'clock.
So like
a place called Sky Cave Retreats in Oregon, Ashland.
Sky Cave Retreats. So what happens? Like, do they knock on your door and say, you close your eyes, whatever, you put a blindfold on, they come in, put your food in, or like, how's that work?
Yeah, so it's like a box of sorts, and so he can open up one side of the box, drop the food like for the whole day in there, and then close the box, and then you can open it up, and you won't get light that comes in.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing, man. But it's one of those things that for me, it felt like kind of like a rite of passage in a way. Okay. Which is something that's very common in a lot of cultures. Mm-hmm. You could go to there's a tribe in the could you look up actually rite of passage hand in glove with fire ant?
I've seen that.
Heard of it.
Yeah. So that's I don't know what tribe it's from exactly. But there's endless there's like this like the Sundance, where you like you starve yourself and you're hung by a tree, and I think it's like 3 days or so, I believe is how long that is. There's a lot of different examples of rites of passage that young, typically men, go through. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of the reason that I did a lot of the kind of like effed up things that I did as a kid, just like a lot of like vandalization and, just stupid stuff, getting way drunker than was necessary. Here it is. These are the guys.
Yeah, I can't pronounce the name, but
what he's got his hands in there?
It's a glove full of venomous fire ants.
Yeah. And so
it's a rite of passage.
So this is a lot like, I think the sensation of like, oh, like I can't take it, I want to get out of here, is a lot like a person that's going through like deep anxiety or deep depression, and it's just like, okay, just be with it, keep being with it, and that's what they're, again, I'm not a Amazonian fire ant rite of passage guy, but I think that's kind of a part of it. Then you get through, typically with rites of passages, what it is pushing a person to the point of feeling like they're going to die. And typically there's like, actually a chance that it might happen. So it's real.
5 hours.
And then on the other side of that it's kind of like V for Vendetta, when he's with whatever the girl's name is, she like, buzzes her hair and he's like doing all the different kind of mind stuff to her. And she's finally gets to a point where she's like, kill me. I don't care. Just fucking kill. Like, I'm not attached to this body anymore. Like, I'm good. And he's like, okay, you may leave. You know, and so that's, I think, what these rites of passages are largely is like, it's a practice of dying before you die so that you can actually, it sounds like overly poetic and kind of wanky, but like actually live, compared to being a slave to the body or slave to the mind. I don't know if this is like getting a little too heady, but I think that's
interesting.
That's kind of the way it is.
And it says according to a Google search, the Kogi tribe has selected male children that are taken from birth put into a dark cave for the first 9 years.
Yeah, it's 9 years.
Jeez.
Oh, can you pull up some pictures of them? I do wonder if they're put into a cave for 9 years. What are their complexions like? There's the Kogi tribe in is it somewhere in Africa? Somewhere in where is it?
It's Colombia.
Colombia.
Yeah.
I do wonder like what they look like. That's interesting.
They look like.
Yeah, the Buddhist tradition I think is 48 days, which that's the 48 or 49 days. But 49 days is the amount of time that the Buddha was said to sit under the tree to achieve enlightenment, whatever the tree was.
Well, what did you learn about yourself after that 5 nights, 4 days?
And it was really recent. So do you think like maybe like 2 years from now you'll have learned a lot more about it?
Probably. Yeah, I'm in like some shit right now. Like there's like a lot of,
because we had to reschedule because you're like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's a good idea for me to come from that right to this.
Crying afterwards. It wouldn't have been good, honestly.
I would have held you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was weepy. It was like it really tapped into some parts of myself that I had. Like one of the images that I had, for example, in there was envisioning my parents holding, and hopefully this relates to other people in some capacity, or wouldn't be sharing it, but my parents holding my baby version of myself, which I don't have any like actual memories of, but I was just like reproducing the memory, which you could argue that's whatever memory is anyway. And so I was in that position and I was just experiencing how much my parents loved me. And like, I'm just like, wow, I'm like this, like that. I'm the most precious thing in their lives. Like, and started to feel that sensation of feeling just like just that depth of love and acceptance. And, like, wow, like I'm like, it's a fucking miracle, man. And like, feel like that feeling of connection. Whereas a lot of people, I think they could even have had a childhood that felt like, oh, my parents were great. Typically there's a lot of defense around parents. At least that's what I've experienced myself. Yeah. Like, no, my mom, she loved me, but like your parents can only love you to the degree that they're able to love. And you as
what they were taught. Yeah.
Yeah. And you as a baby, you are just a sensitive sponge. Mm-hmm. And we can talk ourselves in circles of who we are and who we think we are. And we have these agreements of who we are. And I'll agree that you are who you are. And you agree that I am who I am. Ram Dass calls it like a conspiracy. He says, I'll agree you are who you think you are. If you agree, I am who I think I am. And we'll just run that game for a while.
Yeah.
But as a baby, you just pick up on what's happening at a physical level, at like an enteric, which is a fancy word for saying organ, like visceral level.
Enteric?
Enteric, yeah, the enteric nervous system. That's like the nervous system, the guts. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So as a child, you're picking up tone, which there's a lot of information imprinted in the tone of someone's voice. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you like, yeah, I'm fine, bro. Like I'm totally good. We're good. Or you could hear my voice cracking as I'm saying that, or maybe like more high pitch, or maybe I'm looking away from you, or like all of the different things. It's like, okay, cool. Your word said I'm fine, bro, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm fine, bro. Isn't I'm fine, bro. Isn't I'm fine, bro. I'm fine, bro is like, what is your tone saying? What's the pacing of your language saying? What's the dilation of your pupils saying? What are all of these physical like affects? Like that's the real shit. Mm-hmm. That's what a baby listens to. That's what we listen to too. We just sometimes can trick ourselves with words
or text
and
messages.
Stories. Mm-hmm. Texts are tough, dude.
Okay.
Never did that happen before.
Right?
Just one word.
Fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah, texts are messed up.
Yeah.
Emojis are valuable.
Emojis,
hieroglyphics.
Yeah, I think emojis are like the closest thing to facial affect. Because you can say some words and then you throw an emoji after that. You're like, oh yeah, I get it. Like, cool. Like we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Little eggplant.
Some cultures will use like pictures, kind of emojis, right?
I don't know. Yeah. In what sense?
Just rather than using words, sometimes be descriptive of stuff.
Yeah. There's like Yeah, there's the, I think they're called I'm going to try to say as like minimally pretentious as possible, like the Tarahumara people or like the Tarahumara people or whatever, which are in, where's the Tarahumara? I think they're in like the Amazon, I believe, and like northern Amazon, Brazil. There's a book about it called Don't Sleep. There are snakes. There might be snakes. Can you look that up? What's the fella's name? Tarahumara tribal. It's considered the happiest tribe or the happiest people on the planet. They have a totally different language structure.
Don't they do that run?
Born to Run pops up. Actually.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm thinking of someone. They're in northern Mexico. Shoot, it's another tribe. Can you look up the book, Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes, or There Might Be Snakes? Hopefully you find it because it's really interesting. There might be snakes. But there's hopefully we'll stumble into this, but there's a tribe in northern Amazon. They're considered I'm spacing the author's name.
Amazonian jungle. Let's see here. Who's the author?
Yeah, look up author. But
Daniel Everett.
Yes, Daniel Everett. What's the book actually called?
Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes.
Highly recommend this one. So good. So he went out as a missionary, and he went with the intention to like convert all of these sinning Amazonian people, these lost Amazonians. And then he ended up spending more time with these people, and they ended up essentially like converting him to their lifestyle. And they actually, I believe, they measured how much time they spend smiling throughout the day as like an indication of a quantitative measurement of happiness.
Yeah.
And apparently, I believe they like smile more than anybody on the planet. At least like people that have been like tracking their smiling. And what's interesting, there's a lot of things. I won't remember all of them. Maybe if you could pull up some of the points, it could be kind of cool. But they have a completely different language structure where they don't have specific numbers, for example. I think they just have like one and many.
Yeah.
I don't believe, this is also true with the Vietnamese language. I think it might be them as well. But they don't have the subjunctive form of language, meaning like I should have. If I was there, I would have. It's just like, what do you do?
Oh yeah, those can be coercive words.
Oh yeah, man. It just puts you in a bind.
Would, should,
I would have, and you're just like, ugh, you are stuck. There's nowhere to go from that.
I should be doing this.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. It literally takes your potential of being like full breath, and feeling confident, feeling good, to just it feels like it's like a contraction in a way, or like a weight. You put a weight on yourself. You like to put a weight on yourself. At least that's my experience with it. So that I think that
shouldn't and stuff like that too. I know I shouldn't watch porn. I know I shouldn't. Do
it could just go away.
Right.
Like I think we would be better people and better individuals if just take it out. Like you don't really need it. You either did it or you didn't. Who is that, Han Solo or whatever? What's the Star Wars guy? There is
Yoda. You do or do not.
Yeah, there is no. What is it? There is no
try.
You do or do not do.
He was after longevity. He was like 947 years old or something like that. I mean, he was green and short. He probably shrunk down over time.
Probably lots of bulletproof coffee though.
You think
almost 1,000 years old. That's not bad.
You think he did TRT?
Oh yeah, of course. He's loaded the gills and shit.
Fuck yeah.
Backflips the guy did.
Hold on, there's other points about these people. That wasn't done.
Okay. Let's go.
Yeah. No. So. Crap. I think I forgot.
No. Let's get back to it. So,
all right. Hold on. So they're happiest people, and another interesting thing is they don't trust anything that's outside of. Oh God, I so love that you guys can pull these pictures up. So they don't trust. What is the name of the tribe called?
Let me figure that out.
Yeah. So they don't believe in anything that's not in their immediate lifetime. So if you talk to me about Jesus, you talk to me about Martin Luther King, you talk to me about whatever, like unless it's like Timmy from down the corner, like I don't know what you're talking about.
Fat Project family, how's it going? Now, we like to look good in the gym and out of the gym. That's why you always see Mark and I and Andrew is stepping up on the short game, wearing shorts from Viore and clothes from Viore. And honestly, the number one compliment that I've seen, that I've gotten, and even Mark's gotten, is, damn, your butt looks good. And that's because, well, the clothes we wear make our booties look delicious. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yeah, you guys both have pretty big wagons. You guys can head over to viore.com/power project. That's VUORI.com/power project to receive 20% off the most amazing apparel that looks so good inside and outside of the gym.
It's going to make your ass look fat,
and your ass will look fat. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. God damn it.
That's a good one. That was a good one. Make your ass look fat.
some of what you're describing sounds amazing, and to me, I think a lot of other people can adopt similar principles, and maybe people think in modern times that you can't.
Yeah.
But it's a choice to listen to the news. It's a choice to hear about what Korea is doing and how much money we send to whatever country for war and all these different things. And it's real easy to get amped up one way or the other about these things.
Yeah.
It's real easy to develop an opinion. We had someone on the show recently that said, you don't really have to have an opinion on these things. Right. But also, you don't even have to ever really hear them.
Yeah.
And if some crazy shit is actually really going down, you will know about it the same way you would know if a loved one died. Someone's probably going to call you and say, this happened.
If it actually matters.
Or you're going to see some shit out in your own street.
It'll show up in your texts.
It will show up.
Or someone will knock on your door.
It'll show up in your life. It won't make any difference if you hear about it on the news or not.
Remember when you roll up to your friend's house and just knock on the door? Like, hey, bro.
Can't come out, man. I'm in trouble.
Home? Yeah.
There's a few people we can still do that with, but yeah, no.
I got to do my homework.
Dude, that was a good time. That
do
was
you
a
know
good life.
if these people, like, did they follow tradition? Like, because you mentioned that they don't believe anything that's within their lifetime, but
I think they'd be like an animist. So they worship nature essentially.
Yeah,
That's what humans as a whole have done forever. We're mostly animistic. We worship seasons, we worship planets, we worship the sun. We worship stuff that's actually, we worship nature. Whereas then there was a transition. Again, this is kind of out of my depth as well, but I think largely a transition around like Roman times. Like ancient Greeks they worshipped these gods that represented stuff in nature for a large part. There was kind of a transition into like the church, and your power is kind of out there, and you're a sinner, and it's about, it's not so much, instead of it being the sun or, the elements or whatever it is, it's a personified, it's just a person.
Yeah.
And the actual origins of it representing stuff within our nature, that all gets kind of scrubbed away. And it's actually like this like boss figure of sorts, which is, again, I'm way out of my scope of awareness in that. But it is interesting that I think for most of history, we've always worshiped something. And for most of the time in human history, it was worshiping some version of nature. And then there's been a transition of, not getting to like modern religions.
Or even worshiping like a Greek god and stuff. Sometimes they were associated with weather or nature.
Typically.
Or
Yeah. Or emotions. Mm-hmm. So it's just another way of like understanding the self and understanding your reality. I think it's like really beautiful. And I think modern religion is really powerful as well. But it can be a little coercive and be a little like shameful and be, that's when it starts to get a little funny. Do you think
sometimes that's a positive thing?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, to have shame about doing something that hurts somebody else is positive. I think like net positive. But if I believe that if you allow a person to exist without coercing them into doing things, it feels better for them to quote unquote do the right thing.
Rather than they feel that they must do it because it is a rule that they have to follow.
Correct. And so if I am imposing, my demands upon you, I think there's a natural, like I got this from Gabor Mate. He does a thing. Mark, can you give me your hand? So just put your hand up. So just put it out like this. Yeah. So if I go like this, what do you do?
And push up.
You push up.
You're pushing down on my hand. I push up. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that's the natural nature of the human is if you allow me to be with my hand, it's like, cool. Like here we are with hands, but the moment that I push into you, your natural reaction, I'm pushing like, cool. Like I want you to go here. Your natural reaction is like, cool. I'm going to push just directly in the opposite direction. I'm going to push right back into you. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about? Like, do we need rules to be morally good?
Well, I think in some cases, like, I think that's originally how we got here in the first place in terms of religion. I think that I think people used to haphazardly run amok and fuck each other's significant others and things like that before there was like marriage.
Yeah.
You know, somebody would clearly be with somebody else, and I think that there was shit like that going on. And I think somebody somewhere along the line said, we need to like stop this. We need to like be together more and make some sort of like unity, and like you can't be involved because it to me it's clearly like made up. Maybe some other people believe it comes down from an actual religion or comes down from an actual God. But in my opinion, it was made up by humans where we decided that this was going to be something that we were going to do because it wasn't working previously. So we had to make rules around it. And we had to make shame. Like, no, you did that with so-and-so and that's his girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not right and that's not correct. Making rules about ages and stuff like that. Ages that people can have sex with each other at certain ages, right? Like there's certain things that are appropriate and there's certain things that are inappropriate. And I think that we probably somewhere along the lines, people were fucking shit up.
Yeah.
People were messing things up. And so I think you had to make some rules. And then once you have rules and or laws, and who knows how they treated people if they committed a crime on some of these rules or laws that they made in various religions, or even just rules or laws they made in various towns. But I think they decided that they needed to have specific rules. And then I think you might come across other people as you're traveling, and they have completely different rules and completely different laws, but you're trying to pass through their territory and they're saying, you're not fucking doing this bullshit in our area.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily their area because the world is not built with borders, but these are all man-made things.
Yeah.
And I think there's shame and restriction and law. It's going to kind of be there anyway, but I think that it can work. I think there's concern over not having religion. I think there's concern over not having marriage. I think there's concern over not having school the way that we have school now. It's pretty clear that none of those things work 100%, but I think there's a lot of people that believe that they work well enough to continue onward with them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there would be movement for more change, I believe.
Well, things change slowly, and they change a lot slower the bigger the population gets. And that's I think that's where it's for at an individual level. I think the most important thing people can do is make the best decisions for their family and not just be like minions of the higher ups, you know, and like whatever the commercials say, whatever the FDA says, whatever the government says, whatever CNN says, whatever Fox says, it's like, get out of that. Like that's not the spot.
You know, I mean, I grew up Christian, and there are many aspects of Christianity that I truly appreciate. It's kind of interesting because Christianity gets shit on a lot, and no one really bats an eye.
Like,
there's one interesting.
It's because it's the most popular.
I understand.
It's like LA. LA gets shit on quite a bit. It's like, well, it's kind of like has the one of the strongest magnets of a geographical location on the planet. Yeah. So it's going to get shit on.
Mm-hmm. And I do understand it because there are things that I truly disagree with within, and I haven't gone to church in quite some time, in many years. I'm also, I think that a lot of other religions have there's a lot of cohesiveness and things that are parallel through other religions that I think when you say you're Christian and then you hear somebody else is something else, sometimes there's a disdain for that, or there's a belief that is wrong when it's not necessarily that way. But there's a big power in religion. And I'm not saying that people need to have religion, but I think about the ability for someone to have a community.
That's it.
And think about this. My grandma was 100 years old. She came here to take care of us in 1990. But that woman has never missed a day of church since she was a little girl. She always had a community to go to. Do you have a community that you've been able to go to for a decade or more, that you consistently gone to and had people that were all together? Have you ever had anything like that?
The gym.
The gym. Okay, so there's the gym. Good, cool. So yeah, that's good.
Or jujitsu.
Becomes
a family.
But you think about certain individuals that have that. that they have a community that they go to every single week on the same day. They do whatever they do. They talk, they eat, they do whatever, and then they do it the next week. I think that's one of the big, powerful things that can be of benefit of whatever you choose to practice.
I think it could be huge.
You know what I mean?
And in church, instead of talking about the weight and the reps and the sets and body fat percentages and muscle mass and the diet, which can all be viewed as being healthy things, talking about more like morality. And, grandma might say, oh, I'm having trouble with my grandson and doesn't look like he's getting into the right stuff. And
I'll pray for Nsima.
And somebody, and my dad will say, I'll pray for your son. I understand.
Yeah, right? That's an extremely...
And you get to talk about it and talk through it and what are some ideas that might help us past it and through it.
And get out of the I've heard from somebody else as well, like we've transitioned from, communism into, eventually we arrived here at individualism. So communism is like the other side of individualism. So there's benefits and detriments to both. But presently, probably more than ever in history, we're the most individualistic.
At least here.
In Western culture with cell phones and Facebooks and TikToks.
Yeah.
Like you are staring at yourself more than has ever happened in history. Yeah, it's crazy.
Me and my girl were just talking about that. Like there are mirrors, but the phone in and of itself, like looking at yourself a lot.
A lot.
It's kind of
Let
weird.
me, when you go to your Instagram or something, you're like, let me check in on myself.
Oh yeah,
and you're sitting there hanging out with
I'm
yourself.
my biggest fan.
And you just made a post 10 minutes ago. And you're like, I got to check in on that post that I made.
Yeah.
There's that, but then also you go to like your whole profile and like, if I'm someone brand new, what does it look like when they see my page?
Yeah. What's the user experience for me?
Yeah.
It's
really
strange. And that's incredibly lonely. And that's the irony. I would think it would just make sense.
Imagine if you did it physically. Imagine if you did Instagram physically. You said we're all meeting up at this coffee shop, and people kept coming in, and they're like, "I don't like your shirt," and they leave. And the next guy's like, "I think that shirt's actually really cool." And the next guy leaves. The one guy pushes a button on your shoulder and gives you a little heart, gives you a like.
Yeah.
Your hat is ugly.
Next person just looks at you and walks away, no comment.
Well, we do that in real life.
Somebody runs in and says, "I can't believe you gave that shirt a platform."
That's awesome.
And it's just, that's good.
Sorry to be to cut you off. I just knew I was going to lose that.
No, that's good.
Well, it's just like an amplification, right? Because in real life, when we do that, like in the course of a week, it's probably fairly common to maybe run into, 30, 40 different people.
Yeah.
Like that's probably kind of normal if you're someone that is going out and you're out and about. 30 people maybe you interact with. I don't know.
Or like the Dunbar number. I'm sure you guys heard that before.
150 or something.
150. Yeah, that would be like, and I believe that relates to the amount of primates that would be able to actually keep track of grooming each other. I think is how they get into that. And once it goes beyond that, so it's like we can't keep track of this anymore. But that now you look at your social media stuff, and it's like, cool, I follow 5,000 people, and I'm followed by however many thousand people. It's just very strange, but we still have those reflexes to care about people's perspective of us, and it's still like a deep, maybe not meaningful, but it feels meaningful threat for someone to not accept us. So you're putting yourself, and then you have the comparison game is freaking dangerous, man. And you get into a place where people are starting to develop, there's like names for, I don't know what it's called, something along the lines of like TikTok filter syndrome. It's not that, but it's something like that. There's maybe you could look up, you could look up if you want. But we start to see ourselves in this image, but I see myself for 75% of the times that I actually see myself, I have this like glittery, beautiful, perfect summer Hawaii filter over my face. Yeah. And now I get accustomed to that. Like, I love that. That's what I like. And then you come out of that and you're like, oh God, what is this? And now you're like, oh shit. I've kind of almost created like a disassociation for myself in a way.
Yeah.
There's a thing around, have you ever heard the term interoception? interoception is like the way that you feel internally. So proprioception is like musculoskeletal movement, like your ability to dance and stuff like that. Then interoception is your ability to feel like, I feel hungry, I feel my heartbeat, I feel like all the internal sensations. And there's been some research that I was reading about last night, actually, of people that have lower interoception. One of the interesting, actually cool exercises that I'd recommend people try, just because it'll calm you down. It's real nice. Is you can set a timer for a minute, and then you can. It would be not necessary to do it right now, but you can set a timer for a minute, and then you listen into your heart rate. So you feel your heart rate, and then press the timer, and then count how many heartbeats transpired in that minute. And then you do it again, and you actually take your pulse. And then you measure like how close was I with that. And that would be one potential exercise, or if you were doing like a research study with measuring a person's interoception, that'd be one way to do it. But it will calm you down in a really beautiful way. But what the suggestion in this study that I was reading about last night was that people that measured lower interoceptive scores would have a higher likelihood of having like eating disorders, and also just general like dissatisfaction with their body. Whereas people that have a very good, like open, interoceptive relationship with themselves, things work better, and they like themselves more. They like accept themselves. Yeah. And they don't have issues with food and things of the sort, because they actually have a more conciliant relationship, like with themselves, which is an odd thing. It gets into very like woo-woo, Venice, California, nebulous, like not like whatever, bro. Like I have a buddy he says that I like, is like, when you're talking about something, it's like, does it grow corn? It's like, great, we can space out about all this stuff, but like, does this actually move the ball forward? Or are we just like intellectually wanking ourselves? And so that's one of those things where it's like, oh no, like you having like a meditation practice, or going swimming and just paying attention to the quality of your movement, or lifting weights and paying attention to the quality, like actually paying attention. That was more Arnold Schwarzenegger stuff. It's not you have headphones in and you're checking your messages and you're just trying to like get a quick pump in. You're putting your mind in the muscle. That mind-muscle connection, it's supportive not just for growing bigger muscles, recruiting more motor units, but it's also supportive for literally having like a deeper, more comfortable relationship with yourself. Yeah. You say stuff like that, it's like eye glaze, eyes rolling back, like, oh my God. But like it's science, like it's real shit.
I don't buy any of this. I think you're way better off being super worried about the end of the world and World War III. Well, getting really mad about it.
That's the mofo about news. So think what people are doing now, which is why it's such like a absurd, it's a kind of like privilege in a way, to freaking have a conversation that people listen to. Because literally what people are doing in a way is they're like leasing out their consciousness to this conversation right now. So you're saying, cool, like I'm gonna have my day, do my things, whatever. I'm just gonna kind of like, I trust you guys, the four of you, to borrow my mind.
Take my brain and play with it like it's silly putty for a little while.
Right, exactly.
And Nsima's making dinosaurs and shit.
You're going too deep right now. You're about to make us lose our audience. You better stop right now. I'm joking.
Yeah. But so within that, it's like, okay, interesting. So we're kind of like leasing this thing out for a second. What the hell is the news infusing into your leased out mind? Fear, threat. Why do they do that? Like I'm not like discovering this. This is very obvious and everyone said it.
Has anyone here ever seen or heard anything on the news that they thought was really valuable, and then you immediately did something, sprung into action and did something that was of value that helped with anything?
I don't know. I don't know.
Of value?
How about the 2020 Black Square?
Yeah, well,
is that like Mecca? What is that?
You don't remember?
That's good. Well, anyways, I was gonna say of value, not so much, but in that moment,
Black Square was BLM, right? Yeah, it was that stuff.
Shit.
I got jacked up by BLM.
Dog,
that was tough for me.
What happened?
I just was coerced.
Oh. Did you do a Black Square too?
Oh no, I didn't do Black Square.
Yeah,
but I did white fragility.
Oh,
I was, which is fine. I think it's good. So that's the thing.
I think an auto correction in one way and being sympathetic isn't.
I pendulum back and forth. At first, I was like, "This feels coercive." You're
there
demanding
are aspects of it that are very coercive.
You're demanding that I have an opinion about something that I haven't sat with for more than 25 seconds.
Yes.
And if I don't have an opinion right now, I'm a racist or whatever. Like, this is so blatantly coercive. I'm like, that was my immediate response. And then it transitioned to like, the tribe was essentially, they were marching and they had their flaming, whatever, torches, and they're like coming to your door. And I'm like, oh shit, you guys are right. If everyone is saying the thing, you must be right. So then I flipped to the other side. I was like, white fragility, like, oh my God, like I had no idea I'm a racist. I'm so sorry. And then I was like, after that, I was like, oh no, that's not it. But I just got freaking ping-ponged. I have so much respect for people that are more mature.
Yeah.
And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I'll read some books, I'll reflect on this, I'll have conversations, but you're not gonna boss me into saying something. That's like, what is that?
It's just an example of how things can go too far. Like the only thing people could think about from that situation, or maybe should try to think about, is like since I've been able to get to know Mark and since I've been able to get to know Andrew, I've been able to have an understanding of how they go through the world and the things that they personally deal with going through the world. And some of the benefits of some of the things in 2020 is it opened the eyes of people to how certain other people experience the world. Now, it doesn't mean you need to bully people into thinking certain things because now they understand your perspective. And just because someone doesn't, like, you don't deal with certain things that I may be dealing with on a daily, often, right? But just because you maybe don't deal with those things or it's not part of your experience, it doesn't mean that because you're not maybe overly sympathetic to that you're racist, which is what people were labeling that. The using the term racist was something that just started to become so fucking downplayed in 2020. It's just like, no, that person's not a racist. Stop using that term like that.
I wonder y'all's perspective on this.
I like that.
Y'all's. I feel like personally that the BLM movement and the way that it transpired actually created more racism. And I feel very strongly about that actually, but I'm trying to be sensitive and maybe not.
Tell us what you mean.
I noticed after that, I would just notice if you were black. Before that, I didn't. It was like,
I didn't see color.
I did not see color. I was like, oh, cool, black, whatever. Yeah. Whereas like after that, I was like, oh, fuck, dude's black. Like, how do I, what do I do with my hands? Like, I don't want to offend. I don't want to I don't want to say the wrong thing. Whereas before me personally, we're all judgmental to some degree, and we're picking up the color of a person's car and the types of clothes that they're wearing and the type of car that they choose and their ethnicity. Are you Guatemalan? Are you Caucasian? Are you Irish? Like, we're gathering information from each other. It's not like we're blind to color. But I think the sensitivity of it afterwards, I actually felt more, I guess, just sensitive to race.
Yeah. Okay. So just being more aware of race, not because you said created more racists, but do you instead mean it created people that are more aware of race?
Yeah, like
and
more racial
them?
differentiation.
More racial differentiation. Do you think that is a bad or a net good?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I really don't know. Like the feeling walking into a room with like a multi-raced situation, or a bunch of different races. I just feel like I personally felt more comfortable in that room kind of before that. And after that, I just felt more like, I don't know, like I'm more, I guess more curious, which is fine. I just noticed a lot more.
Okay, noticed a lot more, but were you uncomfortable with noticing more, or were you just noticing more?
Sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah,
not wanting like wow, all this stuff is happening. Like, how does this make you feel?
Well, while it's happening, I can understand. Dog, 2020 had so many people messaging like, "Oh,
of course.
If you need any help,
like, how was that for you?"
Not like, let's not even get into that. But there's an aspect of this that I think there is a net good in, not necessarily like you, right? You're more aware of some of the different people around you. Right. But that awareness isn't a bad thing. You're just more aware of, oh, okay, that Mexican guy, maybe there's certain things that I'm thinking about with his experience, And that different guy, that different girl, there's maybe certain things that, oh, I'm kind of aware of some things that are different about them, because we all kind of deal with different things, and it's unfortunate, but we do deal with some different things just because of the way we look. And when you're going through with your blinders on, like me going through as a black guy with my blinders on, I'm mainly thinking about that. And there are certain things that I may not understand about Mark and the way he sees things as a white guy. It's unfortunate that there are those differences in experiences just because of the way you look, but those differences exist. And I think a net good of some of those things, even though, God, the labeling of racist is so disgusting. Yeah. But a net good is that there's just a little bit of perspective shifts that have gone on. In the moment, it wasn't great because some people, like, you got that white fragility thing, like, oh my God, my black friend, what you're going through is okay. So like, let's tone it back a little bit. But there's more. We're now trying to look at things through different people's lenses. That's all. I think that's a net good. We're becoming more understanding of each other.
The approach of it, I would say, would amplify if there was like maybe subconscious fence sitters in the racism, like subconscious racism game.
Oh God!
Probably a lot of those fence sitters went like, oh, like more compassion, more empathy. Okay, like any aspect of myself that was acting in some type of like kind of pseudo racist-ish way, like maybe like less of that. But people that were leaning more from a place of like, they actually identify as like, I'm racist. Like that's my thing.
It's sickening because activists would attack people for not doing the black square.
Right.
Say, you didn't put a black square. Are you an ally?
Yeah.
Like, dog, fuck you. Honestly, to try to coerce someone into that, fuck you. It's not cool.
So that will create that action. It all depends on the individual it's being projected on. But that action, I think, would create more racism. Because it's the same thing. You add this input in here. It's not an input of like open, like I just want to be seen and heard, or whatever. It's just more like, or like, how can I be empathetic to your experience? White person that hates me, like maybe really hard to do, but that's like some Jesus shit. Where you're coming to a place of like, okay, if you want an action, perhaps the way to lead into that, perhaps again, don't know what I'm talking about right now, and hopefully I'm not offending anyone.
Dog.
But I think that a way to lead into that is like lead by example with that, even though it's so hard to do, compared to, okay, I'm going to violently, burn down your store or something because I don't feel heard. Maybe there is a situation where that actually is a solution and violence is a solution. I just don't know enough about this philosophically, but I feel like someone that is in that position of like actually, card holding racist, I would think that the black man, such as there's an example, there's a fellow, he's done Rogan's podcast a bunch of times. Rogan's talked about him a lot.
Yeah, we had him on our show. I think you're talking about the same guy.
Yeah. His approach is this. It's like, oh, cool, you're a part of the KKK. I would love to learn about you.
Don't look at me.
Daryl Davis.
I would like
Daryl Davis.
Daryl Davis. So he is this. I think I've never met him, but just
he's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you hate me. Okay. There's one response that I can have, which would be like the smaller, immature response. And I'm like, I'm gonna fight you. I'll kill you. There's the other, probably I think more mature response of like, oh, like tell me more. Like where does this come from? Yeah. Were you abused as a child? Like what do you think about me?
What did your parents teach you?
What did you learn about me? And then you get to have that open dialogue, and you haven't pressed the person to put them into a defense position. Suddenly, I think that opens up the potential for conversation. Whereas when it's just, very polarizing headlines, that are going to get clicks, and you're projecting out the most violent, hardest images, and then you start to communicate that way because you're kind of being trained by media in a way.
Yeah,
I think it closes down conversation and closes down potential for I think progress. Maybe that doesn't close it down, but it stifles it.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to use the word better, and I don't have any idea what it's like being anything other than white. But it appears that things here in the United States have gotten better over the years. So I would say it has a net positive, even though when things were going on, it seemed like there was a lot of chaos going on. There was like riots, and there was a lot of shit going down, and people got hurt and killed, and all kinds of stuff happened. And I think a lot of people were like scared, especially from watching the news and like learning more about it through some of that. But I think for our youth, it was probably important. I don't think our youth like followed it necessarily. Like, I don't think older people watch TV, you know, like kids watch TV, but like they watch what they like.
Right.
And they now kind of watch YouTube. They don't really watch as much TV. So I think for my children, if anything, I think it was educational. I think it was helpful. Like this, I mean, when I was a kid, Rodney King situation happened, and I remember that being educational for me. Yeah. And I remember like, wow, like this is great. Like what happened with, like, regardless of what actually happened with the guy, regardless of any of that, you're just like, this fucking sucks. This is a shitty situation.
Yeah.
And I think with my children, I think my children and even my nephews and niece, I think they just heard so much about racism and learned so much about it that whatever racism exactly means, they don't want any part of it. Like they don't want to participate in being racist.
Right. It's not, yeah.
And they're sensitive to it. And so they're not going to use certain words. They're going to, maybe people will still discriminate without even thinking about it, but they're not going to intentionally discriminate.
I think I agree with that actually. If in my individual experience with it, it catalyzed me to feel this imminent, I mean, kind of in a way like threat, but necessity to learn about something that I just wouldn't have been paying attention to before. And so I got White Fragility on Audible and listened to all of it. I watched the 13 documentary or whatever what that's called.
Yeah. That shit was, oof.
Yeah, I mean, I just like went hard on all of the different information that I could get around, you know, slavery and just like the origin of this country and like all of these different things. And so, yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think it was a net positive other than the general, I did have a bit of, I would say kind of, I think a little bit of resentment away of like the sensation of being coerced. That was the part that I still hold a little bit of resentment if I actually like am honest about it. I'm kind of like, I don't like that. Like, let's not do that again. But I feel like I feel like a better person because of it.
And would you say that's your own fault?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. If I'm holding on to anger or resentment or anything, that is just me. And I'm just hurting myself.
Yeah, you chose to watch the news. You chose to let yourself get overly involved in it.
Feeding onto it. And then I'm disappointed at myself because I lost respect for myself.
Yeah. You know, an interesting...
It's easy to have happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention, because I just find it so interesting, is like, I think it's really interesting to learn about different people's experiences going through the world, because then like it can give you a better understanding of why do they view this way? Why are they getting all kind of, a little bit scared when they had to deal with law enforcement? But one thing is when we had Rob Kearney on the show, World's Strongest Gay. And nice. I just remember the comment section was just so fucking asinine because he was talking about some of his experiences as a gay strongman, and he had his husband here, and I thought it was a cool conversation because we were like, it was just insight into like his life as a gay strongman, and it's very different from anything that we have to deal with or anything that we do, but we thought it was cool. But some of the comments of like people were just like, oh, another fucking thing with us like talking about gay people. Yeah. Why is this on my feed today? I didn't ask.
Quit throwing it in my face. I don't care that you're gay. I just want to know how strong you are.
Wow.
Like, yeah, and why couldn't they just talk about his strongman prowess and stuff? It's like it needs to be. We need to talk about it because we're trying to give you a vantage point into what his life is like. His relationship is about the same thing any other relationship is about. It's about love. Him and his husband, they're in love.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, do you guys know who Sean T is?
Yeah. I did Insanity when I was like 19 or 20 in my garage. So I know Sean T. He came out to Austin and we'd record a podcast. Yes. We did like both. He does a podcast as well. And
yeah, we spent the conversation just talking about all the raunchy stuff. And we just went in.
That's awesome.
Because I want to know. Like, I want to, if there's something I don't understand, and you're fucking Sean T, someone that I like, I love and respect,
Yeah.
you know, like actually appreciate you as a friend.
Pull up Sean T real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
Sean T's so
He's the
great.
best.
You gotta
Yeah.
show one of his
Sean
like
T.
booty dancing videos. Dude, he is legit.
Oh my God.
You know, but like the love that he has for his husband, and he's, you know, he's got a family. He's got 2 kids. I think he has 2 kids. And he's just like, he's being himself.
Yeah.
Like to be, I mean, think what you will about having 2 fathers and 2 kids and all of that stuff. It gets into like really sticky, strange territory, and really like, it's very disruptive.
People will have very
It's
strong
like,
opinions.
Like it shocks the nervous system of someone that grows up in a culture, which is, you know, pretty much all of us, where that's like, whoa, like I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
And we tend to fear what we don't understand, and sometimes that can turn into like even like hating what we don't understand.
You know what's really interesting? All right, so you see this Sean T. When I was introduced to Sean T, I was like 19, 20 within the Insanity videos, and you can tell.
Oh, this is Maui.
Like
That's the West Maui Mountains. He's
Sean
in
T,
Kie.
he's leaned into like he's
Yes.
like I'm comfortable with being gay in front of camera now, because with Insanity, like he was like Sean T. I didn't even know Sean T was gay when there was Insanity, but now like you see it, like it's it's all there, and
Dude,
it's pretty cool that
gay
that
dudes-
transformation.
Gay dudes are legit. They're legit.
Oh my God.
They're good, man. Fucking shaking their hips. You know, styling stuff.
Hey man, I
Like
will
that's
say,
nice.
see, this was the Sean T I was used to. You see, wearing all black, fucking yeah, let's go.
Oh yeah, that's a different vibe.
Totally different vibe.
Yeah,
I remember
in
doing
like
this in
a,
my garage with my mom.
in like a Catholic looking
Fucking
gymnasium.
Yeah,
that's a different vibe.
oh,
Yeah, the amount of repression, and he got into like all sorts of deep stuff with in the podcast with like there was like sexual trauma and various different things, and just imagine being a person, not only being of like a minority, which is another like weird word, race, which there's probably some level of dealing with that, I'd imagine, but also being something and having to project as though you're something that you're not. And being like, man, like I don't want to be cast out of culture, essentially, and having to walk that path of actually coming to a place of like, bro, you just need to accept me or fuck off. Like some people in some ways, I think, who have, like we all have our parts of ourselves that we're unsure about or we're insecure about or we might feel like ashamed about or whatever, but because it's not super overt, I think it can just kind of like rest under the surface for a very long time. Whereas with something like that, it's like you got to come out of the closet. And the process of doing that is kind of like, I think in a lot of ways, like one of those Amazonian rites of passages where it's like, okay, like you might kill me, but you just either accept me or there's no other option because I can't live a lie anymore. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
When you saw yourself as a baby, were you a cute baby or an ugly baby? And were you like a gigantic baby?
There wasn't
Bearded
baby.
Yeah, biceps.
Yeah,
there
I
wasn't-
mentioned like thinking about him being like huge. His parents trying to hold him.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of detail of my babiness. It was more about the parents. It was like looking into my parents.
Did you have a different perception of maybe what was going on because you said you felt so loved after that? Did you maybe think because of the things that you saw your dad do or heard about that he maybe didn't love you in that way? Or your
I don't
mom?
know.
Or
I'm
something too?
actually starting with a therapist this week, and I'm like very intentionally like I want to explore this stuff because for the longest time I've been more of the mind that it's like I said, it's like, oh, it's like kind of interesting. It's almost like cool in a way that I had this
Part of your story.
disruptive childhood.
Parents get divorced, parents fight,
Yeah.
kids see all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have an alcoholic parent. Or
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just part of your story.
Yeah. And then a part of it, like we can go deeper into our perceived trauma and actually make it deeper trauma and just keep going down this like endless path of digging up the dark shit that maybe wouldn't even, it's kind of like the term for it in medicine, it's called an iatrogenic disease, which is a disease that manifests itself as a product of medicine.
Almost like working on an injured area or tight area too hard or too much.
Yeah, and then
you stir shit up the wrong way almost.
Yeah, or you start taking a medication that you didn't need, or you start taking, now you're taking a bunch of, you're getting a bunch of radiation for, you're getting X-rays or MRI, like whatever the thing is, and now suddenly you actually have a problem, whereas that thing would have just sorted itself out. So there's also the other end of getting into like my trauma and therapy and all that stuff, where it can, you can just keep on digging up into the oblivion. But I think the natural tendency for a child, if their parents are having problems, the safest thing a child could do would be to reflect that problem back on themselves and perceive themselves as being the problem. So I think that would naturally be what I would have done. Because you don't want, if your parents are unsafe, that's really unsafe. If you're unsafe and your parents are safe, that's not so bad. Mm-hmm. So it's like, cool, like the fortress that my fucked up self is in is okay. Compared to like, oh, like I'm totally good, but oh my God, my environment is dangerous. So I think the natural tendency, and I'm getting this from like other people that, psychologists and such that actually investigate this stuff. But intuitively, I think that makes sense that you would take on the issues of the parents because it's safer for you to take that on than to put that onto them because they're protecting you, right?
When you came out of some of this darkness thing, did people like collaborate and like get together and talk, or? Yeah,
so I went with Hannah Eden, who you know.
Absolutely.
And I went with another friend called Christy. What's Christy's last name? Christy? I forget her last name. She does a podcast, Almost 30 podcast. So we're in different separate rooms. But we
almost
all like,
dirty or almost 30?
30.
Okay.
I like the almost dirty though. Clever. So we all went up there at the same time. And then, it was really pleasant to get to have, it's interesting, mostly females end up doing this, I think. I don't think there's so many dudes that do it.
That's interesting.
Which it seems like in my mind, it seems like hard, like, ugh. But you think like what a woman does well compared to a man is they emote well.
Yeah.
Compared to a man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a broad generalization. So it's like for a woman, it's like more common to be willing to like stay home and take a bath and like cry it out. Whereas for a guy, it's like, bro, fucking pussy, bro, what are you doing, dude? Buck up. And so
call your buddy for some wine and cheese and just
exactly.
complain about your girlfriend.
Yeah, you don't do that. You don't do that. Yeah, but so for a woman, I think it's like, oh yeah, of course. Like I've got a lot of emotions, and even more. Like each month it just comes back around. It's just it comes out. And so women, in a way, I think men can learn a lot from women about a lot of things. But emoting is a very important skill to have under a person's belt, in my experience and opinion.
They race through their emotions, it seems like, a lot faster. And again, it's generalization here.
Yeah. Men like, and I felt that like after the darkness retreat, I did notice myself like I was like very weepy. And stuff would like, if I was watching a movie, something happy happened, something mostly happy stuff is the thing that makes me cry more. But I now actually, and when I feel myself emoting, I'm like excited about it. Like I feel like I'm winning.
Watch Coco.
What's that?
The movie.
Is that about monkeys?
Coco. No.
What's Coco?
You talking about the cartoon?
The cartoon movie. You want a good cry?
Yeah, good cry. Shit.
All of you, watch Coco. Have you seen it, Mark?
I have.
Oh,
several times.
The composition of emotional, instigated tears are actually completely different than that of like you got onion in your eye, and so they have more like different hormones and various different things. Mm-hmm. Whereas like onion in the eye is just pretty much like I think like salt water.
God, even seeing this trailer, I feel my ship starting to well up right now, man. This movie, oh Jesus,
Grandma Coco.
God. But I think this is an interesting idea of how our bodies have these innate like operating systems in a way that when we have stuff, it's like pent up energy, you could say in quotations.
Yeah,
we have ways of letting it come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think of exhalation puts the nervous system more into that parasympathetic side of the nervous system. It's like, You know, so if you have a lot of pent up energy from a thing, like maybe you're laughing, what is laughing? Laughing is literally engaging that parasympathetic side of the nervous system. You're exhaling air, just changing. It's changing your whole hormonal makeup in that instant, based off of just this thing that we call laughing. Ha 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 ha. I was like, oh, he's just laughing. Well, he's also like tuning his nervous system in a way. Yeah. And you think of like tears. It's like, I have so much emotion, all of the neurochemicals, all the things, they're building up. I can't handle it. And you have this spout of hormone-filled water that comes out of your eyes. Yeah. It's just very interesting.
Yeah. Have you, so do you find that you're a little bit, after that, are you still more emotive now?
Totally.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm a crier. Cool. Big crier.
Let me ask, when you were younger, do you think you weren't nearly as
super repressed?
Super repressed.
Yeah, 20s super unsure about what I'm doing here. Super like never felt connected to my family. My mom and dad felt connected, but like go to family reunions, I was like, who are these people? And like okay, I love my grandma, you know, but just like those agreed upon holiday things where you go and you sit there, and I felt like everyone else felt like they belonged, and they were like, oh, they're in their spot. Yeah. And I was kind of just like, what do I do with my hands? Like, what am I doing here? You know, and so I didn't feel that like, this is it, I'm home kind of sensation.
You're like, I'm the different one. I eat different, I drink like different, I walk different, I kind of talk different, I think different.
Does everyone feel that way?
Yeah, probably. Probably a lot of people. There's probably a lot of other people there that might feel that way.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? That's why it's so important.
Well, who cares if you're different? It's great.
Oh, it's a good thing. Well, yeah, I mean, you can grow into that. But I think that's the thing is like, if you're willing to talk about stuff, that's the thing that typically happens. If there's a thing that we are really ashamed about, in my experience, if there's something I'm just like, oh man, like I really fucked up, you know, or something that I don't want to, that thing about myself, I wouldn't want anyone to find that out. Yeah. When you finally just come from a place of like, this is what happened. You know, I don't know what I was thinking. You know, I was there. I couldn't control myself, did the thing. And then like, this is it. People are like, oh bro, I've been there. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you're like, what, really? You know, and then suddenly I think what happens is people, as you put your mask down, it opens up the invitation for the next person to be like, okay, cool. I had some level of like my persona, which persona comes from a Greek word as well, but it was the masks that they would wear in theater, which was like this conical mask. It would project their voice out. That, from my understanding, was called a persona. So it would like persona literally means your mask. And so when you share something that seems kind of maybe like you're a little like, ooh, I don't know about sharing that. And I mean, you don't need to share everything, but you know, I think it opens up permission for other people to like, oh, like we kind of relax a little bit more. You're like, oh yeah, bro, me too.
Maybe you shouldn't show up to these family reunions loaded on mushrooms. You got any good stories for us in those regards? Like,
like psychedelic stuff?
Yeah, people usually have like a mushroom story or something.
Not really.
Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, nothing.
What's been your experience with some of them, and maybe how have they been helpful? And
like psychedelics?
Yeah.
Or hurtful. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, my experience with psychedelics, so like, I almost don't even want to say the term ayahuasca because it has so many different like connotation and like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah, let's go for this ride. Come on.
Yeah. Dude, I had an interesting thing with ayahuasca where I went and, bro.
Was it one of those retreats?
Bro. No, so this was interesting. And there was a lot of people there that if I mentioned their name, everyone knows like who they are. Yeah. In like a big meaningful way. And so it wasn't just like a random kind of thing that I signed up for, whatever. It was kind of like, damn, like how did I get here kind of thing. And in one of the situations, dude, there was a woman and a fella that they had this encounter with this alien grasshopper creature. This is real.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
They implanted some type of thing with the woman, it was into her like nasal cavity. She was very conscious of it, very aware of it. With the fella, he put it into his knuckle. An interesting story with the woman. She got a call from this girl that I was actually thinking about doing a podcast with, but I decided not because that'd be too weird. But she like works with like aliens and stuff. Like that's her thing. She's like famous on the internet for like doing alien stuff.
Okay.
And people getting, probed and whatnot. And she calls her up because she's going to rent her house in Topanga, California, to shoot some stuff. And she's like, oh, by the way, woman that was at this retreat, I know that the Plumubio people or aliens or whatever visited you. And like, I know that it was, probably really scary, but like they're actually here to help you. They're here to support you. Like there's nothing to be worried about. Just randomly, she like knew that this shit happened with her. Very strange. And so during the experience, one of the nights, I think this was like the second or third night. I think it was the third night. The guy beside me, he had this experience where there was like this moth thing. I heard it. I heard this thing going above me. I swear to God. And I was thinking that I'm just tripping. I'm like, okay, well, I'm tripping, whatever, I'll let that be. And then he's confirms afterwards, like, dude, did you hear the moth? Oh, God. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Like that was actually happening for you. The woman gets essentially like possessed by this alien creature thing. Mm-hmm. She starts like chirping and going into all sorts of wild stuff. She turns into like an insect essentially. She goes outside. She's eating bugs off of the ground. She goes into the bathroom, and these like all of the bugs are like swarming the bathroom because they're like attracted to her for some reason.
Mm-hmm. This is actually happening?
This is actually happening.
Okay.
Yeah. This isn't just I remembered this. This is like confirmed next day, like, okay, well, the alien creatures, like we have a name for them. They visited. And the idea suggested by them is that these aliens come down and they essentially like digest the darkness and the trauma and like all of the shit. They actually like feed on the shit that comes up from the people during the ceremony.
Yeah.
And just like an animal would, like, like a fly would feed on shit or whatever, like they're literally these sentient, I don't know, alien creatures that come down and do that. Mm-hmm. And that was interesting. I'm not saying that that's spiritual. I'm not saying that's helpful. Yeah. I'm not even saying that's real. Yeah. But that was an interesting thing of just like, oh, as far as interesting shit that's happened to me during something that was psychedelic, that was very high ranking.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Wow. What's the deal with your diet? You got done with your workout today. You were like stretching. You were getting a pre-podcast pump. Yeah. And then you were just sitting there doing a squat, and you were drinking on some bone broth.
Oh, yeah.
What's the diet like?
I think, for me, I lean towards pretty good amount of protein, mostly. I think the most important thing is the sourcing of your food. I'd be curious your guys' perception.
Yeah,
on
you don't live here. You came from Texas, right?
Yeah. So I got like pasture raised bone broth.
You went to the grocery store and picked up some stuff and made your own little home here while you're here for a day.
Yeah. So the stuff that I got in my little like nutritional toolbox here was I got some berries, like some blackberries or whatever. And I got 4 hard-boiled eggs. I got a container of bone broth, and I got a little like cacao smoothie thing.
Nice.
So just like light, low glycemic, high protein, good for thinking. Generally speaking, I personally find eating, I don't know, I think it varies, man. Like my opinion on nutrition right now, I'm very sure is going to change in 2 or 3 years. So I don't get like overly into the weeds of like, oh, this is, bro, I fucking got it for you, man. This is it. For me presently, I'm like mostly like way more meat than normal. I'm following the trend. Organ meat, doing all the things. Like 2 meals a day.
Have you found organ meat being beneficial for you? Like, did you feel any difference from?
I don't know.
You know?
I mean, that's the kind of fun thing about stuff like, I don't know. I mean, like kratom, for example, which I think what you will about kratom, but it's like you like feel the thing. You're like, oh, put the thing in, like, oh, this is happening, or there's certain supplements and such, or even foods that you feel pretty like coffee. You're like, oh, like I know what coffee does.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff, I take all sorts of organ pills and all that stuff because they're sent to me at no cost is the main reason. I don't know if I'd like spend a lot of money on it. And I just cross my fingers.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like a good idea. You know, our hunter-gatherer asked. I mean, if you look at animals in nature, they go for the organs.
What I heard, which is really interesting more recently, was that people would eat organs over the years, and there's still cultures that do. But I think maybe the information got screwed up somewhere. We have weird information surrounding like vitamins and stuff. I think that when we take like more vitamins, it's going to like result in something more.
Yeah.
And it could just be just covering your bases, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any reason to eat like a ton of organs. I don't think there's a reason like go after eating like a pound or anything like that. And especially when you consider how the fat-soluble vitamins absorb in the body, you don't even really need them every day. They're in the system.
Yeah, they're in there.
Yeah, they're in the system for a while. So if you get stuff like that occasionally, I think it could be great. But I don't think you need to like really sweat it and worry about how much you get all the time.
I think a good chunk of what the amount of passion behind the nutritional conversation, which is why I pretty much just stay out of it, like on my social media and such. I ask quote unquote experts their perspective. But sometimes I'll have a vegan expert on, and sometimes I'll have a carnivore expert on, and sometimes I'll have a whatever on, and they all have diametrically opposed opinions, and they all have their research, and they all have their experts, and they all have everybody's a doctor. So I'm like, I don't know what to think. So, you know, so for me, I'm more just like, okay, what's working for me now? If you want to ask, I'll tell you, but I don't really care to like pour what I'm doing down anybody's throat
and say this is the thing you should be doing. This is the thing. This is the best thing ever.
I can say this is what is presently working to the best of my knowledge now. But you know, I've known Paul Saladino for years, and I had him on my podcast the first time probably 5 years ago or something like that. And that time he was like full on religious about you can only eat meat, bro.
Yeah,
like everything else is a problem. You know, and during that time in our conversation, I was like, dude, this doesn't make sense. Like, if you live in Hawaii, you're probably gonna eat a papaya. You're not gonna be like, no, like keep it away. Like this doesn't make sense.
It tastes way too good.
Yeah, like it just like what are you like a mango? Like it's on the ground. It smells delicious.
Yeah,
it's like what are you talking about? You know, but like there's all the science and all the data, and this is what's going on. And then nothing against Paul, I love Paul, but just in general, this is what happens.
Yes.
You know, so this is like a microcosm of what happens in the macro. He's like, oh, 3 years later, it's like, oh, by the way, like everything I said, like, yes, but like, you know, before I was like fruit is a maybe. Now I'm like, fruit is actually awesome. You know, so now like, look at all of my fruit. Look how colorful the background is now. Like this is it. And then it's like, oh, by the way, like white rice, not that bad. You know, it's actually having the kernel on the outside that's the problem. You know, so that's where like the lectins and all the different things are. And there's a reason that for thousands of years, the world has pretty much run on white rice. Like there's some wisdom in that of like, oh, we've done this for a very long time. Maybe there's something to it. And my suspicion is next is going to be probably an opening up into, you know, vegetable foods and things like that. But the conversation would be around preparation. So that gets into kind of like the Stephen Gundry
stuff.
Yeah, so that gets into kind of like the Stephen Gundry type perspectives, which again, I don't think many people have. It's just their perspective. It's lots of perspectives that people popularize. But it's been like, cool, like you can eat that, but pressure cook it. You can eat that, but ferment it. You can eat that, but you know, there's methods that will actually kind of cook out some of those perceivable toxins that would cause you issues. But, you know, there's ways to get around that. Like you wouldn't eat a sweet potato raw. It would jack you up.
Yeah.
But there's ways to cook it and suddenly it works out. So my feeling is that arc, the nutritional arc, it's ever changing. And mostly what's happening there are people are, you know, either trying to just confirm their own bias, which is, you know, that's a thing, but also just trying to create community. Like that's the thing that for sure, like everything aside, eat white rice or fish or pickles or whatever, you want to have a team and you want to have people. And so if we become team carnivore, it makes me feel like I have this in-group type experience, which is very nutritious. So now I have my in-group, you know, and I'm playing, it's just theater.
It's also nice to feel that you figured it out.
Oh yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? And like, oh, I have this, and that's not good. It's good to feel that way.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, I think there's
Even
one
if it's an
thing-
illusion.
Even if it could be an illusion, but there's one thing that we've learned with all the different people we've brought on. There's a lot of ways to do this thing. There's a lot of ways to do this thing in a beneficial manner. It's like you don't need to stamp yourself down to trying this one diet and sticking there for the rest of your life. You can allow yourself to try a few different things and see how you respond and see if for some reason eating bok choy gives you an autoimmune response, okay, don't eat any or don't eat as much bok choy. Just try some shit out and see how you handle it.
And then within that, it's like the way to actually know what the hell is going on is you have to be willing to observe and you have to be willing to listen.
Yeah.
And if you're living in a world where, like me, like I'm not above any of this. I'm addicted to my cell phone. I'm addicted to all sorts of stuff. That where it's like, cool, you're eating and you're listening to a podcast and you're listening to music and you're checking your notifications on this platform and that platform, and then you're going to write an email while you're eating. Like, you don't know what the hell's going on. So how do you expect to gather any data?
Yeah.
As like a scientist of your N of one experience, like you're not paying attention. And then you're waiting for someone else to tell you what to do. Like, what the hell?
It reminds me of on an episode of Seinfeld, George Costanza tried to eat a pastrami sandwich while having sex.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't work out the way that he wanted. It's like pastrami sandwich, his favorite thing. And he's like, if I can line these two things up, and he's like reaching over and trying to like eat this
Yeah,
sandwich.
because he was in the kitchen. I remember that. He almost got it to work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Trying to figure
bizarre.
out how that would.
Mixing too many good things at one time.
Yeah.
What do you got over there, Andrew?
Dude, almost nothing. This was such a
Man,
cool
hey.
conversation.
But
But
does barefoot?
Huh?
Nothing.
Oh.
See if you can pull up. I've emailed you something over there.
Oh, sorry.
This is something that I came across the other day, and I think it has a lot to do with what we talked about today. It's not about aliens, but it's 5 pillars of, I guess, like wealth. A bunch of different ways you can have wealth,
Oh, cool.
rather than just kind of like the one thing of people just thinking like,
A quantitative thing.
yeah, they're just going to have money or they're just going to be healthy.
How do you measure wealth?
I think you said it. You said it early on. You said ease, and I like
Right.
that word. Ease and dis-ease, I feel that I have a lot of ease. I feel good. I feel that things are going well.
How long have you felt that way? And I'm sure it's not a static, like ever-present thing.
Yeah,
but like how long
probably
have you-
ish for like a decade or so.
What's your age now?
104.
Nice. Do you say your age? I don't know if that's like a weird thing. Is that a thing?
No, that's not a weird thing. I'm
Yeah.
46.
That'd be funny if it was,
Okay,
though.
so 36. All right, so I'm 35. So hopefully maybe this is some indication that I'm coming into something here.
Yeah, it was
At
around
36. Damn. Elders are important. Not that I wouldn't say like, well, you're elder to me.
Yeah.
I would say.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, but elder, I'm saying like Gabor Mate, it would be like an example. Sorry for saying his name pretentiously, but that's actually how you say it. Don't you love that when you're talking just like full English?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're like, let's go get
Start rolling your R's and everything.
fajitas or whatever. I'm like, bro, just call it a fajita, dude. Like,
hate
come on, dog.
I just read his book recently. What was it
The
called?
Myth of Normal is
The
the most
Myth of
recent.
Normal.
one.
Yeah.
In the realm of hungry ghosts. That's where I got that term from originally. He's wrote really good book on parenting. He's great. I really love Gabor.
amazing.
I've got to do some like Rolfing bodywork stuff with him as well. And,
Yeah, see if we can get some audio on this. This is
oh
pretty cool.
snap!
Wealth,
Friends, money,
and family.
family. If you have all the money in the world, you're not healthy, you ain't got nothing. You know about the 5 wealths? Everyone thinks you're rich if you have a lot of money, but there's 4 other ways to be rich. There's a wealth of time, there's a wealth of friends, there's a wealth of health, and then there's family and love and relationships.
Time, wealth,
Friends, money,
and family.
family. If you have all
Yeah,
Pretty
You
dope.
guys have a very similar voice, by the way. I don't know.
Huh. I didn't know.
rich, there's a wealth
That's
of
good,
time,
Andrew.
There's a wealth of
I wanna
friends,
hear his
there's a
voice
wealth
now.
of health.
No. I don't think so.
You
Maybe.
think so?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
yeah. I think we've been duped in a lot of ways. I think and like most of the research that I've seen, at least in relation to the financial wealth part, is, and you guys have all heard this as well, but it does make you happier when you get out of a place of poverty. Poverty sucks. But it's being low on a socioeconomic hierarchy. It's all relativity. So whether you're really rich or not, it's the comparison game that's the thing. And so you're working to keep yourself up on that high level of comparison based off of like, the people around you.
And within all those things, there's a lot of context in each one of those. He says wealth, he does talk about money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, just because we're talking about money and we're talking about wealth doesn't mean you have to necessarily be rich.
Mm-mm.
And just because we're talking about your health doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be ripped.
Right.
And just because we're talking about friends doesn't mean that you need a lot of them.
Mm.
And just because we're talking about family doesn't mean that you need to have a wife or a significant other. Like you probably have family members that love you and care about you.
Yeah, and you can create family.
Right.
It's the comparison game that's really the most challenging thing, and it never stops. Like it's so, I think, insidious. And now our minds, because we're leasing out our minds to social media, to TV, to podcasts. So I think it's very wise to be very intentional about who you lease your mind out to. Don't just let that shit flop around all willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Be like, cool, and that's like an Ayurvedic perspective with what you, the way that what I've heard in Ayurvedic medicine, which again, I don't really know hardly anything about at all, but I just heard this from another buddy on a podcast called Peter Crone. And he broke down to me in that conversation that the Ayurvedic lens on what we see, like the images that we see, is actually like you're consuming that image with your eyes, which then comes into like, is porn malignant or benign? I think it completely depends, but that would be an example of like, cool, if you're staring at horror movies all day, people getting stabbed, and you're watching like some weird porn stuff, like just whatever, compared to you're taking a walk outside, looking at clouds and trees, and you're bird watching. You're like pulling the image of the bird and you're observing their life. Yeah. Two very different effects.
That's a beautiful bird. Let me check in on these titties.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you guys more boob guys or butt guys?
Booty.
All of it.
Booty.
Booty. That's a mature response.
Really?
I
Why is
think
that a
so.
mature response?
Well,
I really want to know, why is that a mature response?
Andrew, take us on out of here, buddy.
We could have gone on for another hour on this, because this is where the meat happens.
This is where it starts.
This is the meat of the conversation. Let's go.
I would say evolutionarily speaking.
Yeah, ratio.
Yeah, waist to hip ratio, which no matter whether
so he's ready to mate.
Birthing hips.
Oh,
birthing hips.
Hey now.
Yep. It's also an indication of if a person has more visceral fat, it's going to be a higher likelihood of depression and various different diseases manifesting themselves. So low hip to waist, or maybe it's high, whatever. If the waist is a lot bigger than the butt, yeah, it's not a good indication as far as bringing that individual like into your tribe.
And that ass looking really good.
So that ass looking really good. Also, another thing. So this is the thing I think is relevant. So a person that develops a butt, like you have to work for a butt.
Generally, yes.
And also to develop a butt, you can kind of hack it and just do a bunch of like pelvic thrust stuff over and over again in whatever form and create hypertrophy and more size and all that stuff. But generally speaking, to develop a hardy, badonkadunk, like two fine hams.
An ass with two Z's.
You need to be lunging. You need to be squatting. You need to be stepping up.
You need to be well fed.
Abducting. You need to be well fed. Your hormones need to be on point. If your hormones are off, it's tough to make a badonkadunk. And so there's a lot of information in a butt.
What does it mean if you're into thick wrists?
Oh, bro, who's not into thick wrists?
Hey! Let's go!
This guy started the thick wrist fan club.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, pronation, supination, you gotta fucking roll it out.
That's amazing.
She's dense and she has good longevity. That's what thick wrist means. If you see a little wrist girl, she's breakable.
Oh, I agree with that. Bro, I shook a man's hand the other day and I felt the carpal bones.
Oh no.
Fucking fully sublux. Bro, I lost so much respect in that moment. And then I was like, all right, no judgment.
This man.
That was my internal process.
Ultimately subluxed.
Can we get you doing some heavy bench presses and
like
some heavy
something.
farmer's carries
Bro,
or
your
something?
constitution, put it together. What are you doing? That's actually grip strength is a higher indicator of cardiovascular health or disease than blood pressure. Interesting.
Cool.
Take us on out of here.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for checking out today's episode. Stick around for Smelly's tip of the day. Drop your favorite segment of this whole podcast. Drop that down below in the comment section. I want to see what you guys were gravitating to the most, because that would be fucking awesome. Make sure you guys like today's episode and subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. My Instagram and Twitter, because I don't really fuck with TikTok anymore, is at I am Andrew Z. Nsima, where are you at?
Let us know how you guys have been liking the power sandals that are currently out on the website.
Powerproject.live.
Powerproject.live. Let us know if you guys have been liking them. And check out our Discord below. Nsima Inyang on Instagram and YouTube, and Nsima Inyang on TikTok and Twitter. Aaron, where can people find you and your podcast?
Align Podcast. If you look up, if you're YouTube, Instagram, any of the things, Align Podcast. The book is called The Align Method. And
It's right here.
That is it.
The Align Method.
That is one. Is it okay if I share?
Share whatever you'd like. Yeah, I see you got this doorknob band thing too that you gave us. Appreciate
that's actually
that.
a prostate massage device.
Oh,
Nice.
well, thank you. Appreciate it. It's been used. Okay. Hey now.
Yeah. The most relevant thing that I'm doing right now, I don't think we talked about much of the stuff that I do in the way of exercise and instruction and mobility and all those different things. But that's
The real reason why you're
that's the brunt of what I do.
Check
and
this
anything
dude
that
out because he just moves in an amazing way. So you got to check him out.
Thank you, man. But yeah, so we are over the last 7 months, I'd say, we've been working on the Align Method program. That's the name of the book. This is the digital version of that. It's a 6-week program. And essentially the first 2/3 takes a person from moving, sagittal, plane, just kind of linear, standard Globo Gym workout, into moving multiplanar, contralateral, kicking, punching, throwing, making that transition for you. And then, there's my stuff. And then week 5 gets into nervous system regulation.
What's the brand of that brand? So, brand of the
Those
band.
are Hertz bands.
Hertz
They're
bands.
dope. That's Mike Salemi. He's awesome. Really like Mike a lot. So the program that comes out, I'm immensely excited about it. And the first week is free. So in that you get a movement assessment. You go through what I consider to be the most important mobility fundamentals.
This is all online type thing, or how's
All
it work?
online, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, online. The first, so it's going to be launching mid-January. In the first cohort, I'll be going through all of it with everyone. We're going to be doing live calls on each week. And that's, to start the free trial, that's at alignpodcast.com/AMP, Align Method Program.
How long have you been working with people to maybe help alleviate pain and to help them move better?
Well, I started training, personal training at LA Fitness. I got my NASM certification. That was when I was 16. So
Damn.
that was 19 years ago. Yeah, I think I got really lucky in a way where I've been specializing from a professional way. A thing since I've been literally a little kid, which is very convenient, as opposed to figuring it out when you're in your 30s or whatever. So started on that, and then like I said, I tore myself apart just really training in a super imbalanced way, and then that turned into studying Rolfing and various different forms of manual therapy, and then I've been like a whore or connoisseur of all the different movement modalities.
That's us.
So I want to hear about, if you're doing functional patterns or GOTA or CrossFit or freaking whatever, Olympic lifting, you're a runner. I'm like, wow, tell me about that.
Yeah.
What works? Oh, where are you hurt? Where have you hurt yourself? Okay, probably don't want to do that. So I've been doing that professionally, doing the podcast for the last 8 years. And that's when I started social media and all that stuff. And, so yeah, I'm just interested. I just want to learn more.
And what have been some of people's experience so far with your program? Have you been able to solve some pretty big issues for people?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is just a person that feels like they've had long-term aches and pains and they haven't been able to get the range that they want. Providing people actionable exercises on how to how to make that happen, but also not just exercises, but also understanding how to regulate your nervous system. Also understanding how to augment your environment so that the way that you live day to day changes the shape of your body. Such a massive point. That's totally like, I don't hear it enough. Like your body, you're continually forming. Like right now, there's a term that it's probably too late in the game to mention stuff like this, but mechanotransduction, which I know you guys know what that is. So right now, as our feet are in contact with the ground, we're creating this electrical stimulus on any of the tissue that's coming in contact with the world around us, and it's sending a stimulus into the fibroblasts and fibroclasts and osteoclasts and like all the cells that build tissue or break it down. And it's saying, cool, build up here. Okay, don't build up here. Chew that part away. Make it weaker, atrophy that part. So in your world, if you're sitting on a chair all day, if you're sitting on the ground, if you're doing pull-ups throughout the day, you're hanging, you're wrestling, you're grappling, you are the architect of your body, man. Like you're in control, you're responsible. And so one of the biggest things is just like not in the modern world, I think it's so important to not just be dust in the wind of modernity, because if you are, statistically, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
So we need, if we want to have longevity and strength and flexibility and all those things, confidence, all this stuff, I think we need to take steps to re-implement some movement into our daily lives. And it's super freaking simple. It's just little things. Like there's so much low hanging fruit that we're just not doing. And it like makes me crazy to look at it.
And I think you'll find that if you start to move around a little bit, you start to just even like passively stretch or get into different ranges of motion, and you do it periodically throughout the day, you'll find that you'll feel good. And it could be something as simple as, remember Kelly Starrett, in his book talking about just putting your foot up on a box or putting your foot up on a chair.
Yeah. Take yourself out of
These are things that I do often. I don't really love to just sit there and like stretch for 20 minutes, but I do move around a lot. Yeah. Just as you were doing in the gym when we were talking, I got done with my workout and you were moving around a lot. I think I can envision that in my head for the masses. I can envision that everyone could figure out versions of that, and maybe they wouldn't be able to get into positions that you were getting into, but maybe for themselves, they can get in positions that also make them feel good.
Yeah. And with anything, like, if someone's a black belt in jujitsu or something, they're not better than anyone. They just have thousands more hours than you do. So if you're a person that from a proprioceptive perspective, you're like, what do they call it? Like KQ, your kinesthetic IQ. If you just don't pay attention, what the hell do you expect? Yeah. It's not like anybody did you wrong, or you did yourself wrong or whatever. You just haven't invested. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just is. You just didn't invest. And so it's real simple. Like as you're going through your day, what are the tiniest little micro interventions that you can add in? One would be like, cool, I'm going to maybe listen to this podcast and take a walk. I'm going to take my sunglasses off. I'm going to get like some sun exposure to my eyes, to my skin. Maybe I'll take my shirt off and I'm going to get more sun. So it's good for my hormones and good for nitric oxide and all the different things. Also, maybe I'll get a little cold while I do that. Oh, cool. Now we're going to this thermogenic effect. Now I'm burning more calories. Oh, now I'm actually going through this whole huge orchestra of muscular contraction, that we call shivering. Yeah. Like, that's so amazing. And that's like, I brought this book, the George Hackenschmidt, The Way to Live. And he's like one of the most famous strong men.
You're giving that to us, right? We got to keep
that is yours. Yeah, that stays on the shelf. Yeah. Yeah. And that's this, like the stuff that he talks about in there from 1896 or whatever, is all the shit that we're talking about in like the biohacking world of 2020, like this progressive stuff. Take a cold shower in the morning or a cold bath, as he suggests, and instead of just drying yourself off, like exercise yourself to dry. Yeah. And then when you're using a towel, he suggests to be like quite like rough and coarse with it. That's lymphatic massage, dude. Like you don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be an osteopath. Like you just need to pay attention.
Pull on the skin, irritate it a little bit.
Yeah, just lift it, get that superficial fascia moving a little bit, and what you'll feel even just with yourself, and I'll shut up because I know we got to wrap up, but if there's places in your body that feel dense, dehydrated, unresponsive, any of that, they just need to be paid attention to.
Yeah.
How do you pay attention to it? Add a little feedback in the form of pressure, It could be a resistance band. It could be a ball, whatever. And just pay attention. Roll the wrist in, roll the wrist out, flex, extend, breathe into that area. If it's in the ribs or the armpit,
You got to
visualize.
get Chris Gadowski on your podcast. You guys have great conversation.
Yeah. I'm connect.
Yeah, I want to strongly encourage people to mess around with a foam roller or a ball or
just
whatever
get
the hell
started.
you can roll on. A barbell, doesn't matter. Myofascial release is great.
Yeah.
And then the God, I'm so sorry. I keep on going, but
No, it's
but
okay.
but there's a thing that I know you guys are also familiar with, that unnecessary acronym NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. You can burn. I've read between like an extra 1,000 to 2,000 calories a day from just being more neat, and that's just kind of fiddling around. Like as we're doing this podcast, I've been like marching in place. Not that I'm any pedestalized, no one needs to look up to me for neat, but like it's so simple.
Yeah.
We got these little rock things under our feet. There was a study that Huberman recently, I heard him talking about of where they're dorsiflexing, plantar flexing actively, intentionally the ankle, which is so dumb, for like 5 hours or something stupid. And what was it? Blood sugar? It was like really good for blood sugar or something? Yeah. It's like, bro, like you're
Training.
yeah. And your ankle as well, it's all tied into your neurology. So when you're like your brain comes from the same dermal layer as your skin. Right? So like the ectoderm, that's that for embryologically speaking, like your brain and your skin, it's one continuous layer. You don't have this brain that exists in a vacuum. Like your whole body is the brain.
Yeah.
So instead of
That
doing
was a nice dance.
like, yeah, Sean T. Yeah. Shout out to Sean T.
Love the gays.
Yeah, big fan of the gays. Anyways, yeah. So the if people are interested in going into those parts of like the actual movement aspect of the Align method and all that stuff, alignpodcast.com/AMP is a free trial for the program.
All right, here's your hostage tape and here's your
Hell yeah!
eye mask. That tape I don't think will rip off your mustache. You can try it and we'll see what happens.
Thick mustache over there.
For
Thank
Smelly's tip, I just want to encourage people just to lift heavy. If it's been a while since you lifted heavy, I want you to encourage you to find some different ways to just get some weight on your body. Just get, whether it's, I think shrugs are kind of like a forgotten exercise, but a great one. Whatever movements that you can do, that you can handle. I don't care if it's a machine bench press or if it's a leg press or what machine it is or what kind of piece of equipment it is. Find something that you can overload with safely. Do it a couple times a week and see if you can improve upon that. Write down your numbers, pay attention to it, and over time, see if you can increase the strength. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later.